I think I was gonna still be allowed to do this, but I am. So yesterday we did the first part. This is part two. Yesterday was part one, and uh, we talked about Cornelius Drebel, who is arguably like one of the most impressive, insane characters that they present to us as being real. One of these, like a polymath that makes, you know, that's like the precursor to Tesla. He could make it thunder and lightning at will. Seems strange, but like you read about this Cornelius Drebel guy, and I'd love to say I could do a whole presentation on him, but surprise, surprise, there's not very much information available. And of course, before we go any further, I do want to say, fuck Israel and the Jewish people. Fuck them all.
Fuck Trump.
The sooner they're all gone, the better it is for the rest of us. And I firmly, firmly believe that. And as soon as we get rid of that horrible cult, the world gets better.
I only wish death on one person.
I don't wish death on any of them. You know, I mean, I wish death on Netanyahu, absolutely, and Bezalel.
Death on Trump.
Yeah, well, again, Bezalel Smotrich, Itmar Ben-Gvir, the people behind the genocide that's happening right now. Oh, I wish they'd die. Netanyahu especially. He's just such an awful, awful human being.
People, they need to suffer. What they have caused in this world.
Yeah, but the thing is, they won't. It's not like they'll get picked up and then have to pay for it. You know, they're going to die, old rich men, very comfortably. All right, so I'm just going to start this video at the 18th century of the narrative that we're given about. Oh wait, did I do this? Did we? Yeah, we did. We actually did go with 8 because we talked about David Bushnell and the turtle submarine, which is, it's like a joke. You know, the turtle is this submarine that failed every time it was used. And when you think about like the design of it, you know, the guy is cranking with one hand to propel things. He's pedaling with his feet. He's also using one of his feet to adjust a pump to push the water out, you know, of the ballasts. He's steering it with his butt cheeks. He's got some sort of thing attached to his butt cheeks. Like it's pretty silly. But hey, they were doing that in what was it? The Bushnell was in 1775. Can I hit that, please? In 1800, we're going to skip to 1800 actually, because the turtle was in 1775, and that's the first like recognized military submarine, even though it failed. In 1800, France built the Nautilus, a human-powered submarine designed by American Robert Fulton. They gave up on the experiment in 1804, as did the British, when they reconsidered Fulton's submarine design, and they realized it didn't work. In 1850, Willem Bauer's Brandtocker was built in Germany. Brandtocker. It remains the oldest known surviving submarine in the world. Well, let's check it out. Okay. So here we go again.
Older than the turtle.
Well, look at this is just another one of these things where they're calling it a submarine because most of the boat is underwater. You still have this thing at the top that's still sticking out of the water. That's allowing them to see, because it's not like they had lights and shit. The only way they could see is through natural light. And then to think, well, if that's the case, then the only way it could ever be used is during the daytime. Because the natural lights, as much as we can see at dusk and blah, 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 if you're in an enclosed area with tiny little light holes at the top, you're not getting much light from dusk. But this is the first recognized like submarine that's still in existence. This is the exact model. And to think so like okay, so who's gonna convince you to get in that thing? Get in there. We're gonna go for a ride.
No thanks.
Oh Jesus. Here's the gear system that was used inside of it, of course. And again, we don't want to try to figure out who's making all of that.
Oh, somebody riding it like a bike too?
Apparently this is the inside of it.
I don't get it.
Well, so you see, the front part that sticks out is where someone stands on a platform and looks and tells everybody where they're going because the rest of it's underwater, apparently. And I think those big wheels are actually hand cranks. I think somebody's probably doing one of these with it to make the thing move. I mean, this is like stupid. This is like let's do this and we'll just trick the stupid people into thinking it because it looks pretty complex and it looks like this, that, and the other. But oh, here we go. Oh, it's even worse than I thought. You guys don't get it. I get so much joy out of doing this to my wife because I know you guys think like I'm this crazy conspiracy theorist and that my wife must be as well, but she's not. Like she believes in a lot of the stuff, but she's a lot more skeptical than I am, and she's the type of person that I can't. Like I have to make her figure it out for herself. She's not the type that you just tell her shit. You have to show her and she has to see it and go, yeah, that's stupid. Right? So I guarantee before a couple of days ago, if I would have told my wife, I don't think submarines are real, she would have said I'm crazy. I believe too much into this conspiracy theory shit and you know and some things are real. You can't just call everything fake and all. It's like the things that she says, the things that most people say. Would you agree? A couple of days ago, you would have said that.
Yeah.
What do you think now? Isn't it strange that I can't show you any footage of submarines in action?
I mean, yeah,
Isn't it?
but
Is it believable to think the submarine rose from, I don't know, 100 feet down as quickly as it did and busted through the 4 foot ice without the passengers moving even a little bit?
the passengers not moving was a little shady, but
A little shady.
then again, because we don't know the force of resistance. For all we know, where they came up, there were already stress fractures in the ice, and it wouldn't have been shit to go through it. You know what I mean?
Irregardless.
See, now
Irregardless.
you lost me.
You're still talking about
It's not
impact.
regardless, because honestly, if the ice was all like,
Well, no, but the point of that video is to show that the subs bust through the ice, even though you're not supposed to ask how the cameraman got there. And the beginning of the video doesn't actually
that
show.
can be explained too.
Doesn't actually show the.
The cameraman came in on a helicopter and were set up knowing that the
Okay, so then
sub
you.
planned on breaking through there.
So, but then the breaking through of the ice is not possible in that scenario, and then especially to not have the people inside move at all.
Again, if the ice was already kind of broken up, we just couldn't tell from the video.
But the video is supposed to
they're
show.
not going to feel that.
The video
inside.
is not supposed to show us that. The video is supposed to be showing us the sub breaking through the ice. That's what the point of
Doesn't
that
mean
is.
it's not staged, though.
I get it. That's what I'm saying. It's all staged bullshit. And you don't see the flat ice before the sub busts through. You only see it. I get it, but that's the point I'm making. If there were real subs that could do that, why would they need to stage something? What's the purpose of staging when you can do it for real? There is a picture of the first camera being built. That's amazing.
Is it the size of Ford Field?
There's a picture of the first camera being built. That's true. I mean, it's like all the pictures that supposedly exist of the satellites taking pictures of things. Because I guess they're just flying twin satellites out, one to take pictures of the satellite taking pictures, and one to take pictures. Ice Road Truckers is fake as fuck. History Channel and Discovery Channel are a joke. Of course they are.
To watch Ice Road Truckers. It's so much fun to watch.
Of course it's all fake bullshit. And of course the History Channel and the Discovery, those are owned by, the lucrative Jews or the wealthy Jews who own the rest of the shit. There's no difference. Like when you think you're getting like some sort, like when they talk about like alien hunters or alien, like if that shit was real, it wouldn't be on the History Channel. So let's see this shit. The point I was making though, is that my wife, who, as you can tell, will like find every hole in what I'm saying, a couple of days ago thought for sure submarines were a thing. They could swim around the ocean and shoot torpedoes, the Hunt for Red October and shit. She saw that movie. And now, just after a couple of days, there's a chink in that armor. To say the least, she's not as 100% as she was. I don't believe it. I think it's fucking stupid. I think when you're looking at like, this is, again, that first submarine, this is on the inside, so that's how it was protected.
Submarines exist?
No.
Or?
No, I don't think. I think boats exist. I think boats, submersible boats that can, I think, okay, no. I think there are those like those submersible things that you see that like James Cameron goes into and shit like that. And those that are connected to something at the top, they have a big line that connects them and there's air supplied to them. And like, I think those might be, I think that's real, but I don't think big giant tubes that can swim underwater, Hunt for Red October style, I don't think those exist, no.
But what about the soldiers that lived on submarines?
Okay, so let's talk about that. So,
I mean,
are soldiers going to tell you the truth?
Josh spent, I think it was a
Are
weekend.
soldiers going to tell you the truth if they're told not to say anything?
Depending on the person, yes. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think all of them.
What about, and this is the same thing that I talk about with our grandparents.
I mean,
and
that's
stuff.
how we know that
if
people
they know,
were in Cambodia and Laos. Because the ones that said we're told not to tell people still came back.
How do you know?
Because I interviewed one of them.
Okay, but how do
he was
you?
flat
how
out
do
told not to tell people?
Okay,
and he came back and told people.
So then you have to assume that there's going to be those. And to think that there's going to be those and that you would know about it. It's not like you would know about that person you interviewed had you not interviewed them. Their story's not available to you. And you had to pry it out of them. So, especially like when it comes to our grandparents and shit like that. Like, if they know something that's potentially could get you killed, they're not going to tell you. It's not, I'm not saying even them to get or not only will they get killed, their families will get killed. They know how the military works. We all know how the military works.
I mean, this is all the stuff I was saying to you about Homie. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what I said about her and the whole Project Paperclip.
I get it. But at the same time, again, the way she handled it didn't make it any better. Like, it's one thing if somebody asks you, hey, is this a thing? And you go, oh, yeah, no problem. No, blah, blah.
But
It's another thing if somebody has researched and educated themselves and they come at you like, hey, I've sort of been looking into this and I found this and I found that and I found
that
this.
makes you more dangerous. It's true.
Right. Well, but again, when it comes to my grandmother, what she said and what she did, how she handled it, only made it seem more real. She did nothing to dispel the rumor. She did nothing to. She made it more 100%. And anybody that I talk to from here on out, if I say, then when I asked my grandmother, she flipped out, kicked me out of the will, kicked me out of the family, blah, 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 for asking a question, every single person goes, yeah, that's really weird.
I just think that if there was any truth to submarines not
Yeah, what about
existing,
people like me who have been on decommissioned submarines? Right. You have been on a submarine in a harbor, or you've been on a submarine boat ride. You have not been on a submarine when it went down and was swimming dolphin style in the water. You haven't. And the idea, like I say this, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but the idea that every time I do this, I can say, I want to talk to Trump supporters. I want to talk to Christians. I want to talk to Israel supporters. I want to, and I literally put this out there every single time that I want to talk to people who believe in these things, and I get nothing. Yet let me talk about submarines not being real, and suddenly I've got multiple people who are like, oh yeah, I built submarines, and then there's the guy who's been on them, and then there's the guy that's this, and then they always seem to find their way here. Isn't that strange?
I just think we would have gotten a whisper of it being bullshit if there were any truth to it being bullshit over the years.
Well, that's what they count on. They count on that level of arrogance to be a self-policing sort of mechanism. And you get mad when I say that, but that's not, I'm not knocking you. I'm saying the arrogance of us believing we would know something. There's all kinds of shit.
Heard rumors of it.
Tartaria wasn't talked about until a couple years ago.
And it could be all fabricated and
It's
totally untrue.
it's absolutely not fabricated.
We don't know.
We do know. The fact that you refuse to look into it is why you say this. But if you just look at the historical record that actually exists, that we do know, Tartaria is a thing. It's on maps. It's on all kinds of stuff. So especially when you look and you find that it does exist, and there's plenty of proof behind it. So it's like, if that's the case, then why is there so much silence? Why hadn't we heard about it? Why wasn't it talked about in school? You have to look deeper. Like, instead of us being told about Tartaria, we talk about the Holocaust, of course, and we talk about UFOs, and we talk about stuff like that. All this crazy shit that we're supposed to believe. But of course you're not going to find anybody that, like, there was no questioning the Holocaust in school. There wasn't a double side to it. It was one way, one side. You don't ask questions, you just regurgitate. And that's how it is with everything. Anything that
what do they have to gain by
fear.
Lying about? All right.
Fear. Everything is fear-based.
If you do believe that there's a boat that can be driven submersed in water, what's the difference between whether that boat can do backflips underwater or not?
I don't know what you mean.
You said you believe that there's a...
I think every submersible that I ever see that civilians have access to, it looks nothing like what we're told these military submarines look like. Nothing. It'll be like a bubble with some things, like it's feasible. These military submarines, they don't make any sense. And it's just like the space program. Why do they do the space program? It's all about control and fear. It's just to keep us in control, keep us in fear, a way for them to siphon our money away from us.
I believe that submarines exist. Whether they can do some of the things they've been portrayed to be able to do, I don't.
Okay. That's fine, and that's what I said. I didn't say I think I changed your mind, but I do think you have more questions today than you did 2 days ago. And the thing is, like I say, with everything, just prove it. I'm the one that's wrong, right? I'm the one that's wrong. You're the one that believes the way you're supposed to believe, which means there's a fucking plethora of information for you to be able to choose from to be able to prove me wrong. It should be really easy. It always should be super easy. If you're, especially like for me believing that I'm telling the truth empowers me to do it more. Like I'm empowered by the truth being said. I want people to question me. I want people to pick apart what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to, don't say that, don't answer those questions, blah, blah. Like I want you to. And it's because I'm proud of what I'm saying and because I believe it to be true. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Why do I have many people need pooping even though I've just pooped recently? That's just stupid shit. I live in a yellow submarine. It's true about Tartaria and everyone. Answer my own question. Just stupid. It's funny. It's funny how the same dumb Jew trolls keep coming back to my feed. Why do they keep coming back to my feed? They won't actually address what I'm saying, and they keep coming back. But they're just regular people, right? The mud flood proof seems real to me. It does seem real, doesn't it? I've been looking at turn of the century buildings in my travels. Something doesn't add up. It should. You shouldn't, like that's the thing that most people like let's say you're just a regular person, believes in Jesus, all that other shit. You go to some place like just any one of us. I mean, any major city in the United States or the UK, they have like a giant church, an old world church, right? It's just in the middle of the city. All the buildings are built around it, but then this old world church still sits there. And as soon as you get there, you're in awe. You're just like, oh my, how the thing that you look around going, how the fuck did they build this? How did they build this? Wow, this is incredible. And you'll take tours of these places just to go look at them so you can be at awe. So you can be in awe at how fucking like impossible this is. And you literally know it when you're looking at it. We can't do that. How did they do that back when they were donkey people using hammers and chisels? And yet as soon as like you get out of that headspace and you get back into your real world life, you start, you like police yourself. It's like you can't answer how this works, but you're not going to really ask questions because, the immediate response, oh, so aliens built it, huh? Or something like that. You automatically put yourself in a position to be made fun of. So you just stop. And you just believe as you're supposed to believe. And that's literally how they control us with so many different things, is it's just that little switch that we flip in our own heads. It's a self-protection sort of mechanism. I don't want to be made fun of. I don't want to be kicked out of the group. This is one of those things that people can make fun of you for and not be, they're not bad for it. Like, if you don't believe in God, Christians are allowed to ridicule you. Call you you must believe in Satan and you have demons, and they can say all these crazy, when you think about, like, in their language, they're horrible things. I mean, they're fucking stupid in real life, but they mean them to be horrible things. And that's just okay. If you question the shape of the earth, then you're just oh, how dare you question something you've been told to believe? And it's never, put to you to say, okay, why do these people question the same narrative that all of us just accept? What is it about? Did these people learn something? Were these people given some information that I wasn't given? And that's often the problem, is people just don't get it. Like, you never ask yourself, why do people think we didn't go to the moon? Are they just crazy? Did they just look at the same shit you looked at and said, I choose not to believe this? Or is there more to the narrative than maybe you're aware of? See, that's that arrogance that I was talking about with my wife. And again, I'm not knocking her. That arrogance is why that arrogance is the foundation of Christian society. The foundation of Christianity is arrogance. You believe that the God that makes the universe work listens to your prayers and shit. Like, that's as arrogant as it gets. You have to be ignorant and arrogant at the same time. And that's the thing is most people, when it comes to things like the shape of the earth or the moon, they just tell themselves the person's a kook. They don't think it's possible that that person might know more information about this thing that they haven't looked into. They don't fucking know. But just because that mechanism is pushed, it's like when I was in the at the hospital just after the mask ban was lifted, and they were still trying to make people wear masks, and I'm like, I'm not wearing one. And I'm talking to the people in the waiting room who are mad at me. And there's this old man, this old fat, disgusting looking man with his fat ass daughter. She was like, she had a little bit of money, but she was just short and fat. And anytime you're extremely overweight, I just don't, nothing you say matters. Like, obviously you don't make good life choices. So if you're not going to make these basic life choices to not eat absolute shit all the time, what do you have to say that really matters? Like, as far as how to live my life, you're going to tell me I should be worried about wearing a mask and shit like that? But look at you. Like, it's just, I have an issue with it. So I'm talking, and can you please stop talking to my father? And I said, lady, your dad's a grown adult. I think if he wants to talk to me, he can. Because he was talking to me. And I said to him, man, you're old enough to remember the 1976 swine flu vaccination program? You remember that, right? And he was like, well, vaguely. And when the government, when the system lied to the people, told them there was this swine flu absolutely didn't exist. They knew it didn't exist. They knew it was bullshit. They developed a vaccine for it that got approved. And then after it was approved, they changed everything up. Vaccinated people with the jet injection method, which is every single time that's used, enough material is transferred from one person to the next to be able to pass on hepatitis and other infectious nastinesses like that. They got 46 million Americans to vaccinate over something that didn't exist, using a vaccine they knew caused GBS or polio. It's polio, just renamed polio. While spreading whatever else hepatitis and shit people had amongst each other, because the jet injection method is just insane. And it was all done by Dr. David Sensor, who was the guy in charge of the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, where they were giving black people syphilis just to see what happens without telling them. He was in charge of that program and kept it running until the media finally stepped in. And then he was like, okay, I'll shut it down. And then that guy was given the go-ahead to vaccinate as many people as he wanted to, 1976. And I brought that up much more briefly, but I said, you remember, they lied. They lied about swine flu even existing. It didn't exist. There are no confirmed cases of it. They lied about the vaccine. They lied about every aspect of it. Got 46 million of you to vaccinate. And then within the next few years, we saw a spike in SIDS. And then once they got the formula right, now we have this autism, or what I call SOBA, which is symptoms of biological attack. Because autism is something people are born with. You can't be made autistic. And every single one of those vaccine babies that you know that got their shots, and the next day something was different, and all the parents knew, and they saw it, and they, to tell these parents they're all liars, and it's all just a big bunch of shit, right? But it's that same system. It's that same just do what we tell you system. We will lie to you. We will do whatever we want system that you want to believe is telling you the truth about everything from submarines to fucking, vaccines. It's all a big fucking lie. You have to ask yourself why. If they want us to die, they have to barely try. We'll just comply and take whatever they supply. Fucking put it in our eye. As long as it's by our guy, we won't be shy. Well, you don't have to look healthy to do critical thinking. You can be a genius and sit and eat donuts all day and smoke. It's not healthy. Yeah, well, when it comes to the conversation about health, you're the last person I'm going to listen to. When you're telling me you're worried about COVID, when it doesn't exist, it's fake, it's bullshit, it's nothing, it's just part of the cycle. I think we get sick. I mean, again, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the piece of shit that he is who opened my eyes. Right? And I hate that guy. I think he's an asshole, and I think he's just a dumb actor who's paid to say what he says. But at one point he said, he was on the Joe Rogan show, and Joe brought up, what happens when people try to bring this stuff up. And Neil said that he doesn't argue with people anymore. He doesn't argue with people about what they think. His job is to teach people how they think. And once you teach people how they think, what they think is irrelevant. And I when he said that, or the version of that he said, obviously it wasn't the same thing. But I thought, man, what an arrogant fucking thing to say, and blah, 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 blah. But it stuck with me. And it took a minute till it really dawned on me. But he's right. If they have you believing that especially in the invisible, because that's absolutely, like, everything that we're supposed to believe is invisible. Right? Like, think about it. The God devil situation that you believe in, all invisible. It's all from a past, supposedly, that you can't disprove. Well, I mean, you can disprove it, but you can't really. It doesn't matter. You can't be there. Nobody was alive to see it. There's no accounts of it from that time. Like, it's all just bullshit. And that's if you trust the narrative that you're being told by the people that lie to you. The whole Dionysus thing, it's all just bullshit. But this is that it's what you think. If they have you believing in invisible bad guys, whether it's invisible aliens coming from space, it's an invisible rock falling out of the sky and wiping out the invisible dinosaurs, if it's the invisible germs that you think are just sort of flying around and they're resting on shit everywhere, and there's COVID sauce on everything, and you just can't see it. You cough. If you cough here, it's safe. If you cough here, you're a fucking ticking time bomb, a biological disaster. You're safe. Time bomb. Safe. Time bomb. Safe. Death. Safe. Murder. Safe. Genocide. Safe. Israel. Like, that's literally what they tell you. And people believe that shit. People believe these narratives that they're telling us because you've already accepted the idea that these invisible creatures, these really intelligent, like, you don't even realize how smart you think germs are. Because germs would have to be super duper intelligent, just like gravity. Gravity has to be super duper intelligent. Gravity, that invisible force you believe in, that can't be tested, can't be shown. It only works according to mathematical figures that Jews in white coats tell you about. And that you're not allowed to question or disagree with. And if you do, your fellow compatriots are allowed to make fun of you and be mean to you over it because you don't agree with the narrative that you're being told. It's really interesting when you step back and you just sort of look at things and you ask yourself, like, why do people always get so mad at the earth shape argument? You ever try talking to people about it? They act like they work for roundearth.com and every time somebody believes in something other than round earth, they lose $1 or some shit. Like, they get mad and you just go, what are you so mad about? What the hell are you so mad about? Yo, what's up, Elon? Rainwater? The invisible bad guys are the key. The invisible is what you believe in with everything. I mean, you believe in an invisible pole shift that well, yeah, at any point the north and the south pole of the earth can just flip. And they say that the crust of the earth is kind of like an orange peel and it can just spin around sometimes and we get new poles suddenly. And the proof is because they once found a woolly mammoth with grass still in its mouth that had been flash frozen because it was in mid chew when it got flash frozen. So that must mean pole shift, right? And of course, you don't get to see that woolly mammoth. You personally, you John of the million billions, like, you're never going to be like, hey, can I go see that woolly mammoth? And they'll be like, yeah, go check it out. Go look at that. Go look at the grass still in its mouth. Go look. Here, do your own investigation into this. Here, I'm sure you have a magic ray gun that scans and gives you the date of things, just like we do. Here, use your magic scanning ray gun. Like you don't realize how stupid they have you. And it starts with childhood and the belief in God and shit. Because every single person that is a Christian or a Muslim or whatever, at some point as a child, they asked some questions they got in trouble for. At some point, something that they were told, some of it just didn't make sense to them. And very innocently, they were like, hey, how come God lets so many innocent children starve and get molested by the church? Why does the church keep getting caught violating children? Shouldn't God be upset about that? And don't you ask that question, Anthony. Anthony, you go say your Hail Marys and you don't ask those questions, okay? We have faith, Anthony. We have faith in this house, Anthony. You don't want to burn in hell for all of eternity, do you? Because imagine, it's like we've all forgotten really what it's like to be a kid. Imagine the damage that's done to a kid's psyche being told that if they do something wrong, if they don't follow the book, if they, and chances are they've already broken some of those rules, that they're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. Imagine the thought process that goes into that. While you've also told them that at some point dinosaurs existed on this planet, big, massive, could eat humans in one bite, way stronger, tougher, better than we are, dinosaurs, and an invisible rock fell out of the sky and wiped them out. Like, we don't even think about what kind of psychological damage we do to these children by telling them this shit. We all think of it as like, oh, that's just normal stuff, blah, 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 blah. The concept of hell, if you don't follow the Jewish rules, if you ask the questions that you undoubtedly are going to have, well, you're going to end up in hell for all of eternity. You know how bad it is getting grounded for like 10 minutes when you're 8 years old? Yeah, multiply that by eternity. You hate Jews, bro. That's sad, says God's blessing. Yet again, another troll that's been here for multiple days. I hate Jews. That's sad. Think about that. Think about just how fucking stupid that is. Just that statement in itself. Why would it be sad that I hate the Jewish religion? Do you understand it? Do you know it? What do you know of that horrible cult? Like it's crazy to think. Do you think it's sad if I hate Christians or if I hate Muslims or if I hate all these other religions that you've never even heard of? What about all the religions that you hate that aren't your religion? What does that say? You're always talking about hating them. I absolutely do hate them. It's hard to play magical basketball. Don't know what that means. But see, I know why I hate them. I know why, like, I hate the religion. I hate, the practices. I hate the Christian. I hate all of it. I know why. You don't even know why you don't. You don't know why you support them. You don't know why you like them so much other than, well, they're God's chosen people. So I got to do what the book they gave me says. And you don't even think twice about it. Well, man, hope you're having a great day. When Gumby can just move the whole... I mean, again, we've got stupid coming through. How do you like your dude's hairs to look? Left hook lazy? Jeff? How do you like your dudes with a nice, buzz cut haircut or something? I hate that shit too, bro. Judaism, religion, what? Which part? If you agree, man, subscribe, share, like the video, guys. Help me out. I hate begging for the fucking support, but I also know that when I'm watching videos, I often forget about those things. So when people remind me, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'll do that. I know why I like Buddha, sure. Buddhism's dumb too. Siddhartha. He was a rich guy and blah, blah, blah. And he felt bad for the poor, so he went out to try to find enlightenment. And then one day, he was sitting under a tree when the devil came up and tempted him. And he didn't take the temptation, and he touched the ground with his finger, and the earthquake happened, and the devil got scared. And, oh, God, it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. You're a fiend, bro, says God's blessing. God, you call yourself God's blessing, and you don't know shit about it. You know nothing about the thing you say you believe in. That is so dangerous and scary and stupid. I like when people are freed from suffering and confusion their minds are at ease. Yes, they are. The thing is, if Christianity was the good thing, they wouldn't have to force it on people. People would steal it, If it was the good thing, there wouldn't be punishment if you don't. You know it's bad because they force it on you. Liked and subbed. Awesome. Appreciate it. Judaism, religion, yeah, it's gross. It's all just disgusting. People don't even understand. The fact is, Americans are circumcising their children and they don't even know why. If you say it's medical, it's because science and medical. Well, isn't that like universal, right? Isn't science and medical like things that are that cross borders and shit? Well, how come the science and medical is a necessity here, but over in Europe that supposedly existed for a lot longer, the science and medicine is like, no. The benefits do not outweigh the fucking the risk, the damage. We don't do that. No. If it really is a science medical thing, then it should be universal, but it's not. And when you understand that you circumcise yourself to mark yourself or your children as Jewish property, it's even worse. Like most Christians don't understand that their God couldn't care less about how we treat each other. He doesn't care. It doesn't care. It doesn't care how we treat the animals. It doesn't care how we treat the planet. It doesn't care about any of that shit. The only thing that God really cares about is that we keep circumcising, that Jews keep cutting and sucking bloody baby dicks. Because in the Jewish tradition, the moil, that's his only job. He goes around and performs circumcisions all day. And he cuts it and then he sucks on it. Because he thinks, because they think that the moil saliva cauterizes the wound and blah, blah, blah. That's what they do. Go fucking prove me wrong. And no, not all of them do it. Sure, a lot of them do. More than what should be acceptable, which is none. It shouldn't be acceptable anywhere. It's the reason why whenever people talk about, oh, the Jews are the most hated, persecuted people in the world. They were kicked out of 100 countries in the last 1,000 years. And why does everybody hate the Jews so much? It's because of that. Circumcision is the number one thing in the Jewish religion. So even the Jewish women don't really matter other than they make more dicks to be circumcised. But the number one thing in Judaism is circumcision, which involves cutting and sucking. And when Abraham made his covenant with God, God said, as long as you do that, I'll never destroy the earth again. And I'll show you with proof by rainbows. I'll show you rainbows to prove to you that I'm not going to destroy the earth. And so Abraham circumcised himself and then circumcised all of his 90 slaves or whatever the fuck it was. It's a lot of blowjobs getting handed out there. But it was him marking his property. That's what circumcision is. That's why no one likes them. That's why they were kicked out of so many countries throughout history, is because they wanted to practice this nasty, disgusting thing. And everybody was like, no, that's nasty and disgusting. Like, you can do your thing, you just can't do the circumcision thing. And they were like, well, that's the main thing, so go ahead, prove me wrong, somebody. If this is archived, surely it is for a good purpose. But if religion does the opposite, then I agree with you about the invisible. Exactly. No one forces any religion on anyone. Yeah, you're right. No one forces religion on people. Parents don't force religion on their children. Yep. In our society, we can go to the bank on Sunday, right? We could go to the bank on Christmas. In this country, whether you like it or not, you practice Christian bullshit. Can't buy alcohol on Sundays. Certain places you can't buy alcohol. I mean, alcohol is disgusting and should be abolished, but whatever. Here we go. This guy calling anyone is disgusting is rich. This guy calling anyone is disgusting is rich. Man, Chef Blaze is really cooking today, huh? And if religion really helped, we would know nothing about it. No doubt. No doubt. It would be something that conspiracy theorists talk about. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. God is going to fix things. Right. Okay. We'd pay for it even more. It'd be like a tax taken out of our checks and shit. What do you call it? Go, bro, you're yep, bro, this guy is always on some crazy shit. And it's weird that you keep coming back. I'm always on some crazy shit that you can't debunk. You can't actually say anything intelligent. You just say these kinds of things, and you come back day after day. That makes so much sense. I don't know about God. I don't know about Jesus. I do. They're not real. You know nothing about religion, dude. Yep. There's that cop-out from God's blessing. I'm only telling you origins and telling you what the Bible says and stuff like that, but I don't know what I'm talking about. You do, who can't say anything. I just want freedom from the monster world. Well, then you have to get rid of the monster Jews that control it. That's the reality. We all already know this. Everybody already knows the Jews control the world. They know the Jews control the money. They know the Jews control entertainment. They know, TV, movies and shit, music. They know the Jews control the government. We know this. But when it comes to putting it into practice, it comes to okay, hey, you know what? we should fix the world. Let's start by identifying the problem. And you go, hey, it's the Jews we always talk about. They go, no, dude, we're not allowed to say that. No, they say we're not allowed to talk about them, so we don't. Do no harm, take no shit, someone said. Let your mind and the exploitation of the divine beauty soul, oh, whatever. And the exploitation of the fair. You're not telling anything or origins. Right, I didn't just explain where circumcision came from, right? God's blessing. Maybe you should get God, like pray that God gives you better ears or hearing or something. You know, do something. Maybe, I always wonder, how come the religious people don't immediately send a prayer up to God and ask him to give them whatever knowledge they need to be able to put me in my place? Why don't they ever ask for help? Because they can't do it on their own, clearly. You know, this guy has, like, think about it. This God's blessing character. He's been on this page numerous times. He's had multiple opportunities to say something of merit. You know, he could say, there's literally no restrictions. Like, he could say anything he wants to say. And this is what he comes up with. It's like the other day when the Muslim was here. And he said, oh, yeah, the Islam is truth, no doubt. It's obvious. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you know, there's all the miracles in the Quran. And I said, miracle? What are you talking about? He said, oh, thousands and thousands of miracles. And I said, you know, blindly, because, again, I'm the one that risk here. I'm the one that's live. I'm the one that's calling out the norm. I'm calling out the status quo. So when you say, oh, yeah, there's thousands of miracles in the Quran or the Bible, whatever, and I say, okay, give me one, I'm really taking a risk, right? You could say something that is undeniable, and I'd be like, oh, shit, well, yeah, that is pretty miraculous. I guess there's no way around that one. But that's not what happens. I asked this guy for give me one, and you would think of the thousands of miracles he said that are in the Quran, he doesn't go with the very best one, or maybe he does, I don't know. You would think you would go with the very best, most undeniable one. And his argument was that the word men is mentioned 23 times in the Quran, and the word woman is mentioned 23 times in the Quran. And that's the same as the number of chromosomes we have. And then he said the word day is mentioned 365 times in the Quran. And the word month is mentioned 12 times. And it's like, dude, these are your miracles? These are miracles of God. The train was going down the tracks. The brakes were off. It was about to hit this car that was stuck on the tracks that had no gas, whatever. And all of a sudden, a strange gust of wind came and pushed the car off the tracks. Even though it was in park. That's miracle. That's God's hand coming in to adjust God, what is already God's plan, right? It's already working the way God wants it. Just because it's negative to you doesn't mean it's not the way God wanted it to be, at least according to your fucking nonsense. So God already has this plan. It's going according to plan. And you somehow, you know, make it change its mind and do something different. That's what I would consider a miracle. Not a word being in a book a couple of times. A word being in it's mentioned 365 times in the Quran, so that must mean it's a fucking miracle. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? These people are out of their fucking minds, man. They're out of their minds. That's not anything, dude. Everyone knows that rabbis circumcised. Everyone knows that rabbis circumcised. What are you talking about, you dummy, dumb. The world is ugly, but ugly is beautiful. The world is not ugly. The world is an amazing, beautiful place. Life is this wonderful, amazing thing. You only get one shot at it. It's the religious control, it's the Jews especially, but it's the sickness, the ugliness is the manufactured aspect of things. And that's the part we need to focus on. The world is worth saving. Of course it is. We have nowhere else to live. Listen, dude, you haven't spoken any facts. See, again, this guy can type this nonsense. Can't tell me what I'm getting wrong, but can tell me that I'm getting it wrong over and over. Like this is like, it's weird. It's like talking to fucking children, man. You know, instead of continuously telling me that I'm wrong, look, there you go. Balboa Park, built in the 1800s. Sure it was. Instead of telling me that I'm wrong, tell me what I'm wrong about. I literally request that 800 times every fucking video. I literally point this out every single time these idiots are here, and they still, I mean, I think it's all just like Israeli bots. That's what I think. That's why I think they're so stupid. I think they have a certain amount of, pre-programmed shit in there, and then it works with what it has, but it's not smart enough. The AI isn't smart enough to best me yet. It will be, I'm sure. But these Israeli bot profiles, they're just so dumb. It's unreal. God's blessing. Sure. The arrogance in calling yourself that just says everything. I don't know any. No, we really don't know too many facts. We know what they want us to know. And I know a lot of what they want us to know. Doesn't mean it's true. It's just what they want us to know. Bro, I would hate to see what kind of person your kid will grow up to be. Watch out. Yeah. So now we're desperate. Now his stupidity is at an ultimate high because, again, this is one of those things that's sort of like an unspoken rule, right? You don't start bringing up someone's family. It's just like when white people call a black dude nigger, right? They're only doing that because they've run out of other things to say. And what you've said has hurt them so much that they're willing to dig way, way down deep and drag the bottom of that barrel, knowing that that's frowned upon. That's nobody's going to be like, oh, you win. They're going to think, all they're trying to do is affect your emotions like you've affected theirs. And it's the same thing when people start talking about wives, kids, husbands, whatever. They're desperate. You have every opportunity to debunk or call out any of the points that I'm making. But instead of, I've literally like talked about the origins of circumcision and all of these other things. And yet you're only real, like, you're like hiding like this. You're like, oh, he won't see me if I do this. Oh, you're not saying anything. Really? Like it's just amazing to me how consistently these trolls prove the point. It's just the same point over and over again. If they could say something against what I'm saying, clearly they would. These guys come back day after day just to talk shit. Apparently they oppose the guy that thinks we should cut off Israel and use that money to kill pedophiles. Makes you wonder who they are. But like if they're willing to spend hours and hours and hours, day after day after day, constantly trying to catch me up on little things here or there, dude, I give you way more than enough without you having to look for it. I'm going against every narrative we're taught to believe, and you could just pick one and start telling me what I'm wrong about, and you don't. If you could, you would, but you don't. And you not doing that, and then you turning it into like some childish, oh, well, your kids and your mom and your blah, blah, blah. When you start doing that playground bullshit, like adults, real adults, see it for what it is. There might be some other dumb clowns that go, oh, shit. But it's like, it's crazy how routine this has become. I know why Mike Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas, right? If Mike would have had Custy Amato around and had that same regiment, he would have never been beaten. He would have been the greatest of all time by far. He was just so good when he was at his prime. But when he lost his focus and when he got bored because he was just killing everybody in a couple of rounds and he didn't train as much and all that, because the challenge wasn't there, he lost. He lost to a much lesser competition guy on his very best day, no doubt. But that's like, I can totally see how somebody that's really, really good at something gets to that point. When you just run out of competition because you just smash everybody, it's not even fun, really. It's like, can you just please, instead of me smashing you, can you just please tell me what I'm wrong about? Like, it's so strange to me that I'm literally like begging, please stop being children. I'm okay. If I don't look how you like dudes to look, and you're a dude, like, I hope you understand what you're saying. But like, I get it. You don't like me. You don't like the way I look, my children, my wife, blah, 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 blah. I get it. Okay. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Can you please just, because none of that other shit works. I really couldn't care less what random fucking fake profiles think of my children or my wife or what. Why would I care? I never understand why people get upset. Oh, I was bullied to the point where I almost committed suicide. Because of random fucking people on the internet? Are you out of your mind? Why? I always thought, like, no publicity is bad publicity. I remember when I was a kid, one of my girl friends was like, "Oh man, hey, I heard we were in gym class and the girls were all having they were all talking shit about you." And I was like, "Really? That's awesome." Dude, you have no business to say anything, especially since he's putting on different discs. Okay, well, he gets a disc, man. How about you stop trying to make rules?
But that's not fair.
Dude, he can watch a disc, and then you'll get to pick at something. That's usually how that works.
You tell me you don't want me doing that stuff.
Okay, but you have control most of the time. So you've probably already picked everything that was watched this morning, right?
Yes.
So you've had way more than the 2 hours. You've had way more than the 2 hours of that disc, right?
No, all I've had is one disc of Saitama.
Nick, it's 11 o'clock.
I know.
Okay, so if you've picked everything that was watched, and you've been up since 6 o'clock, 6:30, I think you've had a lot more time, don't you? Hello? Nick, I know you didn't just walk away, right?
Yeah, because I grabbed you and put...
Okay, so I need to, do I seriously need to come down there?
No, Dad, I'll stop.
So wait. So you've had a lot more time than him, right?
Yes.
And then afterwards, you'll take over for a lot longer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he gets his disc, right? Thank you, dude. See, I don't know what to do there. A 45-year-old William Fiend. A 45-year-old William. I fiend for Williams? Is that what you're saying? Or for William? God would want to see the kid grow up. Man, I don't know. Better watch out. I meant from what? I don't know anything about God, but I do think we have souls which are divine and may come from God. Why? Why do you think that way? Like, it's one thing to say stuff like that, but do you understand why you think that way? Is there a reason why you think that way? Tweak for us, man. See, again, look at God's blessing. This is your Christian, right? Your Christian is feeling so defeated that they've reverted back to middle school. And they're just desperately trying to grasp at any straw they think they can, but it's not working. It's amazing how this always happens. This guy has nothing else going on in his life than to come here and play the role of the example day after day after day. Instead of saying anything intelligent, he just comes here to make up his own little stories, his own little fantasy about the guy that's making him look stupid. That is so weird to me. Yeah, the world is definitely beautiful. I say it's ugly because it's just so fragile to an infinite amount of strife that can happen while we are living here. Again, that's not the world. Maybe that's humanity. I don't know. And even then, I don't think that. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the system has incredible precautions being taken. Like all the underground fortresses and just all the underground shit that exists. They clearly know something and they're clearly prepared for something. So I don't think getting rid of us would be as easy as people might think. But at the same time, I mean, you tell people they're sick and you say, look, this sickness is the scariest sickness. It's the deadliest sickness ever. We have to stick a Q-tip way up your nose, scrape around to be able to test for it. And you might have it and not know. It's so bad, you might not have any symptoms, but you can get other people sick. Like the narrative it was just so stupid that they're going to close down the beaches, especially at the oceans, because, all that salty air is not good for us to breathe and shit. All the Trump supporters, I just, I every time you try to talk to them about COVID, they shut down. They just don't want to talk about it. But, Trump is the one that locked everyone down and cost everyone their businesses and all. That was Trump. Just like how Biden is the reason grocery prices are high, Trump is the reason why we were locked down, even more so. Because Trump did sign the order. Biden didn't sign the make groceries more expensive order. But people are stupid. I feel sorry for the people that live with you and the people you interact with. Right, here we go. So, again, instead of you telling me anything that I'm wrong about, you're just like some little kid that's mad. Some little monkey mad. Ooh, throwing poop at people. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You have nothing to say. It's hilarious. How can you seriously be this stupid and not realize that you're being this stupid? Some people die still plotting out evil. I love watching you. This is great. Now you just said, I feel sorry for the people that you live with and the people that you interact with. And then said, I love watching you. This is great. Which is in response to me talking about what a dumb shit you are. Wow. Like that's amazing to me. Is that not amazing to everybody else? If that's amazing to you, throw a like on the thing. Isn't that what people say? Isn't that how this works? I'm supposed to say shit like that. Oh, if that was amazing to you, throw a like on it. If you agree with that guy, throw a dislike on it. Throw a dislike if you agree with him. I don't know about the invisible, but I think the soul is made for better than this. What's the soul, though? Than this world. Did you know Egypt is the origin of circumcision? Yeah, sure it is. Because they found some Egyptian remains that they think have been circumcised. Because the penis has a bone that's going to stick around. You're gonna find remains of a penis. Don't you have one, dude? Do you really think that thing sits around for a while? This is funny. You're nuts. Okay, you're not a bad guy. I mean, this guy is a lunatic. This is about as bipolar as it gets, and I hate saying shit like that, but literally, that is bipolar. Swinging from one side to the other like that is literally bipolar. Borderline schizophrenic. Like, that's some crazy shit. I'm sorry for saying what I said about your kid growing up. No, you're not. That's what you do. I couldn't care less. your apology means nothing because I don't care. I know about my soul. There is a soul and a non-soul, self and a non-self. What I don't understand is where the soul originates. I'm just aware of it. I'm just aware when something isn't in line with my soul. Again, that's a pretty broad sort of term then, I guess, right? I mean, you're talking about intuition. You're talking about a lot of things. There's something that's not quite understood yet. I don't know if it's the soul. I definitely don't think it. Like the whole concept of God is just dumb. And so when you for me, understanding that it's dumb really eliminates all the things that come with it because it's dumb. Now I don't know, the soul. I mean, obviously, there's that exercise that KRS-One does. It's called Rockstar. You can look it up. It's like a 10-minute video. The Rockstar part's a lot shorter. Eric Roberts. I bet he cries. Is he gonna cry? I bet he's gonna cry. But the Rockstar thing, where he talks about where does memory live, what is it, that you can hear voice in your head, you can remember something. Like the whole thing is he holds up this bumper sticker for Rockstar, and he says, okay, I want you to say the word Rockstar, but not out loud. I want you to say it in your head when I hold this up. And he holds it up, and he says, okay, so all of you literally just heard yourself say Rockstar, yet your vocal cords didn't vibrate and your ears didn't hear anything. Where does that live? Now he says, okay, close your eyes and do the same thing. And he said, okay, now all of you could see Rockstar. You could see the bumper sticker, and you heard yourself say it, and yet no one said anything. No one's eyes were open. Like, how does all that work? Where does memory exist? How can you remember something by a smell or, how does all that work? And that's definitely something worth looking into. But, for me, this immediately goes into the category of we'll never know the answers to this until we overthrow the Jews that control the narrative. The Jews that want us to believe in God and be good little goyim and believe the Jews are God's chosen people and Islam is bad and all that other shit. Like, we're way too distracted to comprehend the reality of things. And we have to really, like, all the time and energy that's spent on brainwashing people into religion, if that was then spent on teaching people how to truly deal with things, and like I've since my kids were very little, I've talked to them in ways a lot of adults don't agree with, and I don't mean like language wise, I mean like subject matter. Like, I would talk to them. They'd get in trouble, and instead of spanking for sure, but I would talk to them about what's going on and how, what are you thinking and what are you feeling, and let's hash all this shit out. And my kids can handle things that a lot of kids can't their age. And they're it's instead of wasting time with religion, instead of wasting time with punishment, we just tried to figure things out. And we'll see, maybe they'll turn out good, maybe they won't. I don't know. But I think they've turned out pretty decent so far, at least according to everyone but God's blessing. Oh, let's see. The soul is what tells me to get up and materialize something into this world that isn't there already. It isn't in this world already because I am the connection between my soul and the world. I mean, so every time somebody sort of talks about stuff like this, I immediately say, like, my immediate place that I go to is that, okay, so what are you able to do and materialize and so all that shit? How come you can do what you can do, and yet the children being held hostage and continuously violated by the church, by the Vatican, by whatever, or held hostage either literally in bondage or in some other way where they're orphans or whatever, and this is where their livelihood is, and they just sort of have to, whatever it is. What are you doing differently that they aren't? Because they should be able to materialize salvation, and yet they can't, and they go about their existence being violated by these disgusting old men repeatedly. So when you start talking about whether you believe in prayer or that you have guardian angels or that manifestation and you live what you think and don't focus on the negative, because the more you focus on, if you focus on the negative, you bring the negative into your life and all these other things, and it goes, okay, well, what about those children? Did they do that to themselves then? They manifested that everyday rape reality for themselves. And so when you put it in perspective like that, you take the ego out of it, the arrogance out of it, and you just look at what you're saying and you think, man, I guess that is kind of fucked up, because I'm saying that this thing that exists, this ether that exists, is giving me favor in a world where I already have favor. I already have a TV. I already have an air conditioning. I have a refrigerator full of food. I'm not getting raped in my butthole every day by a nasty man who claims to be a man of God. I'm that fortunate, and yet I'm still asking for shit. And God, the universe, the narrative, whatever you want to call it, is then answering those prayers, is connecting with my soul, or whatever, again, however you want to refer to it. Instead of helping these children, instead of manifesting, like maybe God can only do so much. Maybe the angels and the soul, the manifestation, the whatever you want to call it, can only do so much. And every time it's going to do something to help these children, one of you asks for something else, and it's like, oh, wow, okay, well, these guys are Americans, or these guys are from the UK, these guys are from Western world, so their priority is over these children. Like, do you understand how arrogantly ridiculous your belief structure is inherently set to be? Like, you have to be an arrogant piece of shit to believe the way that you do, and that's how most of us have been programmed to be. At the end of the day, we're these arrogant pieces of shit who somehow, like all of the people that talk about, we got to close the border. Because those Native Americans, even though we call them Mexicans, but those Native Americans, they don't belong here. Your parents had sex here, so you belong here. Like, it's just really crazy how arrogant and distracted we've been made to be, and not even realize it, and think like we think we're doing the right thing. So many of us think that we're the righteous ones, we're the noble ones. Everybody that believes in karma, first of all, you believe in the wrong thing. Karma is not a tit for tat, do unto others kind of thing. It's a thing that you build up. You build up your good karma, and then you die and you pass into the next existence with good karma. It doesn't affect your life like that. But everybody that believes the tit for tat thing doesn't even understand that their belief in that tit for tat is a self-defeating thing. If you're doing something because you're doing it for good karma, then you're doing it for the wrong reason, and you're giving yourself bad karma. You should only do things because they're the right things to do. Whether it's going to benefit you or not, it doesn't matter. If it's the right thing to do, you do it. But people don't look at it like that. Are you pretty interesting to watch? Monroe sucks. It's dangerous to live there. Yeah, I don't live there. My soul is why I want to be somebody. No, you are why you want to be somebody. I don't know. My soul is what I want. My soul is what I want. My soul is what I want is kind of an idea of what I want to become. I'm sure that's why the universe moves, because the soul is trying to take from... I'm being violated as well. Hey, whole world is, every soul is. Dude, if you are comparing what you go through in your life to a child who is raised to believe in the church wholeheartedly, who has no other options, they were on the street, they were kidnapped, whatever it is. They're being held in bondage in the dark shadowy rooms of the Vatican or the near it, whatever. And they're getting raped every day by old nasty men. If you think your life, your poor me bullshit compares to that, I think you're proving the arrogance I'm talking about. The whole world is a horrible place for the soul to be. No, it's not. The soul tries to take form to rescue other souls. Like, where do you even get this stuff from? Like, that's the funniest thing. Like, where are you getting this from? Like you are doing right now by manifesting righteous anger. It's a skill issue. Even if I am perfectly loyal to my soul, I need the skill to take on the suffering of the world head on. The people who actively do evil have betrayed their soul to serve some delusional ego that is actually raping what was supposed to be for the soul. Like, again, dude, where are you getting this from? The holy life is to be freed from evil and to do no evil. That's weird. The holy life is the one that constantly rapes children. To be able to escape evil is a blessing that everyone must fight for, but not everyone is able to have. Yeah, that's well prevail. Fate ain't be changed. Fate ain't be changed. The holy life is no evil. Like, again, what are you even talking about? I mean, it's strange. It's like, I guess so many of us have been brainwashed by the Christian society that we live in that we can't let go of so much of the programming, even though we want to, even though we see through it and we can easily call out the negatives and shit like that. There's still that lingering programming that has you believing in shit that, I mean, absolutely doesn't fucking matter. You're not even addressing the idea of the arrogance, right? The arrogance it takes. Listen to me. When will you, how can I listen to you, dumbass? Type what you want to type. It'll get read. Like, again, must be a religious person then. More of that arrogance coming through. Like, it's strange how deceptive and well disguised the plan is. But you just, once you see it, it's just like everything else. Once you see it, there's no way to unsee it. Until you do, though, it's probably really, really hard to see. I can't, the idea of any sort of divine anything that allows children to be violated by the people who push divinity isn't something I even want to believe in. So if it's real, it can fuck itself because I want nothing to do with it. And that's what I'm talking about. How can it be arrogant? I've already explained it to you. Are you gum? I know you do. I've always said truth is sexy. You don't want to fuck it necessarily. I mean, some of you do, I'm sure. But truth is something that you're attracted to. Even if you think you disagree with it, you're still going to be attracted to it and come back to it day after day after day. That's what it is. That's what the secret is. That's why these guys that may be real keep coming back. I still think most of them are bots. But those that are real, they can't help it. This is why the system stopped sharing my shit. Because even when they'd share it amongst their groups, I kept pulling their people. The people that were just there to do some trolling fun and weren't actually a part of the pedophile shit, they were the cover. Once they realized what was going on and they actually sat and listened to what was being said and realized they can't argue, they can't disagree, it is what it is. And I'm sure you're going to have something stupid to say, but That's how this works. No, I love to watch you, and the reason I'm coming back. I know. I know you do, because it's truth. Whether you're willing to admit it or not, it's the truth. That's why I can say it the way I say it so confidently. That's why there's not a bunch of What? Go ahead, dude. You know, because it's the truth. It's just there. There's no flash needed. There's no rules that need to be followed or anything. It's the truth. Let's just talk about the truth. And I'm, you know, the real confidence in why again, I'm the one that does this with all the risk. Everybody in the comments is just an anonymous person. They could say anything. No one's gonna know. And they have all the time in the world to come up with whatever they want to come up with. I'm the one that's shooting from the hip. I'm the one that if I read the comment and it stumps me or it staggers me, you guys are going to see it happen in real time, and I can't hide it. So I'm never worried. I know I can talk about religion all day, and nobody's going to come in and say anything that's like, whoa, super profound, because it's stupid. How can you? How is somebody going to convince me that Santa Claus is real? What possible argument could they make? You need to calm down a little bit, though, right? Because I am just so upset right now. Clearly. Yeah, my pulse is just racing. You know, I encourage all of you to figure out what I'm getting wrong and tell me. So I'm going to go back to this because I've been way off target for a while here. But this was the this is the sketch of the Brauntocker. You know, top view, side view, and bottom view. So what you see on the bottom, you see the guy that steers it and apparently handles the ballast, who is also looking out of the front where the light comes in, because this doesn't go completely underwater. And then the guy in the back is the peddler, who's also steering, I guess. I don't really know how this all works, but you can see, like, that's what they say. The first this submarine that still exists, that's what that looks like on the inside. That's how that operated. So it was a two-man sub. It was built by, was a submersible. See, it's a submersible. It's not a submarine. Designed by the Bavarian inventor and engineer Willem Bauer and built by Schweffel and Howalt in Kiel for Schleswig-Holstein's flotilla, part of the Reichsflotte, I don't know, Reichsflotte. In 1850, the Brauntocker is the oldest known surviving submarine in the world. Pretty fucking dumb. Pretty dumb. In January 1850, Bauer, a cavalryman during the German-Danish War, designed Brauntocker as a way to end the Danish naval blockade of Germany. Interesting, huh? Things also matter by a person's choices, either it do good or sinful act, but every act having an outcome. I don't even know what that even means. You got to do better. I'm sorry, I can't decipher that. The lotus on the water is the soul of the world. Sure. I mean, I just, when that's the best you can come up with, dude, we have a problem, right? Like, you literally have somebody that's reading you Wikipedia and trying to pull it apart, and you're engaging in the conversation, and I absolutely appreciate it. But this isn't like you have to say things. This has to be real, man. You can't just sit here and you know throw out like weird little quibs about that are vague and you know opinion based, and it's just a matter of perception. Like, let's talk about a reality here. And I realize that can be scary. Like, once you start realizing your reality is falling apart, that's a scary feeling. When you're not necessarily prepared for it, you know, you want to, like, everybody believes what they want to believe. At the end of the day, you literally, like, you personally don't know 90% of the shit you say you believe. You don't know it. You think it. You have an idea, but you absolutely don't know it because it's not. You haven't experienced it. Maybe you saw a video, or you heard a story or something like that, or you're just regurgitating some shit you had to learn for school, more than likely. But at the end of the day, we only know, we believe what we want to. We're not given very much evidence for anything. And most of the time, we're only given the two choices. The two major choices are Big Bang or Jesus made it, God made it. And neither one of those actually have any proof to them. Osmotic pressure makes things difficult for submarines. Sure. Not clinging to views is the first step to addressing reality. We have to first eschew views to address reality. Why? I want, I think true selfishness is the key to salvation for us. Low-level selfishness is what most people experience and what most people exhibit. True selfishness is me wanting myself, my family, my wife, my children, and their children, so on, to live the happiest, healthiest, safest lives they can live. And the only way that can truly happen is if everyone else is living the happiest, healthiest, safest lives they can live. So, at the end of the day, I want everybody's lives to be better so my life can be better. That's the thing that you have to understand. That's the thing we all have to understand. And that's the thing that religion all of the religions sort of take away from is you have to work on your own sort of salvation and your soul and all this other shit, when it's like, come on, why don't we stop focusing on fairy tales for a little while and focus on the reality? And right now the reality is there's a fucking genocide going on. There's a genocide that's being justified by religious bullshit. And it's the worst people in the world with the best equipment, attacking the people with the least amount of equipment, with rocks and sticks and shit. And they keep picking all these different fights all over the place that Jake Sullivan has already promised Netanyahu and company that the United States will supply as many troops as necessary, especially since, just by coincidence, mind you, 2023, the 2023 protests of the judicial reform, the Project 2025 that's going to happen here, but that happened in Israel in 2023, just before, or for all of 23 up until October 7th. These fake protests were happening, which were then justification for Israelis in protest, mind you. It's only in protest, it's just coincidentally that their form of protest was to say, because all Israelis at 18 have to serve in the military, and then they're considered reservists forever, so they can always be called up. Well, in protest of the judicial branch and the executive branch not getting along, the people overwhelmingly signed petitions saying if some sort of conflict were to come up in, say, October or something like that, we refuse service, which is essentially going AWOL. It's against the law. You know, it's desertion. You can't, if you're a reservist and you're called up and you refuse, you can be locked up for that shit. But I guess because the Israelis did it in a form of protest, it made it okay. And Jake Sullivan was like, "Hey, don't worry. All the people that we'll provide you all the troops you need. You'll get all the meat bags you need," according to Kissinger. It's crazy how I watch a lot of like old TV shows and shit. And in the 70s and the 80s, they literally tried to make it seem like Henry Kissinger was a good-looking guy. Like there were multiple shows where they would say, he's a cross between Henry Kissinger and somebody else. Now I know they're saying it Kissinger's brain, but he's an ugly, ugly motherfucker. Always was. I did a history on him once, and it's not it's what you would think. Like it's what I would think. It's not what the average person would think. It's interesting how just the whole story. Maybe we'll do it again because it's been a while. So in January of 1850, Bauer, a cavalryman during the German-Danish War, designated Brauntrücker as a way to end the Danish naval blockade of Germany. A submarine could affix mines on hulls of enemy ships undetected and detonate them from a safe distance. That literally is the same exact narrative that they used for the Turtle, is that it was to affix mines to ships. That's why submarines were invented, to fix mines to ships. Bauer's early sketch attracted the attention of the Minister of Marine, who allowed him to construct a 70 by 18 by 20 centimeter model. The model was demonstrated in Kiel Harbor in front of naval dignitaries. Its satisfactory performance led to the construction of a full-scale model, which was funded by contributions from Army personnel and local civilians. Can you imagine that? Like, just first of all, it's yet another story where the details are going to be really plentiful when it comes to shit that doesn't matter. How did this cavalryman just come up with this design, and what did he base it on, and like how long did it take him to come up with it? How long did he work? How long did it take him to build the model? What did he build the model out of? What were the tests that were? Any of that shit? No. You don't get any of that. You get to know this fucking nonsense bullshit that when you leave the page, you go, oh yeah, there were details. I remember details. That's proof. I'll make some later. Yeah. No, go eat your lunch. I'm sure Mom made lunch, put it in the fridge. Yeah. Due to inadequate funding. So, and then again, think then once they get permission to build it, they're now asking the people of the town of what is it? The Dutch, I guess, the Danish, the Dutch. They're asking the people for money to be able to build this submarine because the government didn't have enough money to build the submarine for the government. Like, what? This is the narrative that you get in so many different instances, and you just accept it probably because you hear it so often. But when you step back and you just think like what they're saying, it's just stupid. It doesn't make sense. The nut is it. even though you're reading stuff. The nut is at it even though you're reading stuff. Sure, whatever, dude. I hope you get all the attention you need. Due to inadequate funding, the scale of the boat had to be downgraded and the design altered and simplified, resulting in a reduced diving depth from 30 meters to 9.5 meters. But it's not going under the water. What do you mean diving depth? This redesign included eliminating the use of enclosed ballast tanks to contain the water being taken into and expelled from the submarine. Instead, the water was allowed to pool inside the bottom of the hull, below the main floor, and was able to move relatively unobstructed within this area when the ship changed orientation. Instead, the water was allowed to pool inside the bottom of the hull. You gotta be kidding me. I'd love to see something like this actually be tested in today's. Like, I'd love to see it be built and tested and shown how this thing fucking worked. The resulting instability was probably a significant contributing factor to the loss of the vessel. So it didn't even fucking work. As built, Broad Tracker was 8.8 meters, 8.07 meters long, and 2.02 meters at maximum beam, with a draft or drought. I don't know. It looks like it's DRAUDHT, so I don't know if that said draft or drought, of 2.63 meters. It was propelled by a crew of 3 turning large tread wheels connected to a propeller. The boat could reach a speed of 3 knots. Yet again, it's always that 3 knots. But this could not be maintained for long periods of time. Right, because the person would be tired as fuck. On February 1st, 1851, Brauntucker sank after a diving accident occurred. After a diving accident during acceptance trials in Kiel Harbor, the submarine experienced equipment failure and sank to the bottom of a 16-meter hole at the bottom of Kiel Harbor. Bauer escaped by letting in water, thus increasing the air pressure, which allowed Bauer and his 2 companions to open the hatch and swim to the surface. This was the first submarine escape to be witnessed and reported. In 1867, the wreck was discovered and it was raised on July 5th, 1887. How? How was it discovered? What were they using in 1887 to go searching through Kiel Harbor? 16 meters down. That's what? Almost 40 feet? In 1887, they had the ability to search 40 feet down. And of course, so it's going to be, again, we're going to get details, but I'm not going to get the details I want. Of course, they're not going to tell me how the fuck they found this thing. What was used? What was the technology that allowed them to find shipwrecks at the bottom of the fucking harbor in 1887? Come on, guys. Brauntucker was first placed on display at the Naval Academy in Kiel, and then in 1906 it was moved to the Museum für Meereskunde in Berlin. From 63 to 65, it was restored in the GDR at Rostock and placed on display at the National Volksmeer Museum in Potsdam. See all those details? Right? These are all details. They got dates. They got places. So when you leave this, you'll think, yeah, I got details about this thing. But it was just discovered. 1887, the wreck was discovered, and it was raised on July 5th, 1887. How? How were raising a shipwreck? Not only could they find it, they had the technology to get down to it, hook things on it, and then lift it up. Seriously, let your brain think about that. This is pre-power tools. What the fuck were they using? I always see the pictures of the old warships and shit like that and think, well, what factory existed that could build those things? Who's designing these huge ships made of metal back in the 1800s and shit? Wow, that's crazy. Long before we had cars and all that shit, we had big ass warships, huh? Weird. The boat can now be viewed at the blah 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 museum and the who gives a fuck. That's the end of that story. That's the first submarine, I guess, sorta. What'd they say that one was? That one, 1850, William Bowers Braun Tucker was built in Germany. It remains the oldest known surviving sub in the world, right? Because, again, Turtle was first in 1770. Well, Turtle wasn't first in 1775. Turtle's the first military use in 1775. The first, the actual first submarine is from Drebel. That's what we talked about earlier. Drebel is the guy. Drebel built a working submarine in 1620. 1620. The atmospheric pressure and pressure per unit also have critical role in submarine control. Sure. Now he's stupid, not crazy. Yep. There's that Dan Smith, dumb Jew, comes in again. This dumb Jew has been here multiple times, pops in, says these dumb little things, and then, hides away. Here, I'm being dumb again by reading this shit. Let me just read you this Cornelius Drebel thing real quick, because this shit is wild. You got to hear about this guy. I know it's a bit of a sidetrack, but Cornelius Jacobsoen Drebel was a Dutch engineer and inventor. He was the builder of the first operational submarine in 1620 and an innovator who contributed to the development of measurement and control systems, optics, and chemistry. Born in Holland in 1572, after some years at Latin school in Alkmaar around 1587. And this we have a lot of detailed history of this guy from the 1500s. Yet we lots of shit in between then and now we've lost. Makes so much sense. Teachers at the academy were these three. They know the teachers. One of which he ends up marrying the teacher's sister. In 1595, they had at least 6 children, of whom 4 survived. Drebel worked initially as a painter, engraver, and cartographer. Again, one of these polymaths. Painter, engraver, and cartographer. Making maps, painting pictures, and engraving, because that's what you did. But he was in constant need of money because of the prodigal lifestyle of his wife, whatever the fuck that even means. And you think think about how did society work back then? There weren't mortgages and shit. There wasn't insurance. You didn't have your electricity bill. You didn't have your house payment. I guess you had to give money to the king and shit. I mean, the whole thing is just really stupid. And this guy was they make it sound like he was constantly working and innovating and making crazy shit, but he's always broke because of his wife. It's his wife. Can you heard about Drebel submarine? Can I heard about it? I'm reading about it. In 1598, he obtained a patent for a water supply system and a sort of perpetual clockwork. In the 1600s, Drebel was in Middelburg, where he built a fountain at Newderport, right? He just built fountains and a water supply system and a perpetual clockwork. He made a perpetual motion machine. These are things that don't exist now. Perpetual motion machine, we still don't really understand that shit. But still, we're just getting started. In that spectacle making center, he may have picked up knowledge in the art of lens grinding and later would construct a magic lantern and a camera obscura. Let's see, who knows what those are? Do you know what those are? Let's see. A magic lantern, also known by its Latin name, Lantern Magicia, was an early type of image projector that used pictures, paintings, prints, or photographs on transparent plates, usually made of glass, one or more lenses, and a light source. Because a single lens inverts an image projected through it, as in the phenomenon which inverts the image of a camera obscura, slides were inserted upside down in the magic lantern, rendering the projected image correctly oriented. So you knew that they had image projectors in photographs and shit like that back in the 1500s, right? You knew that. Right? It was mostly developed in the 17th century and commonly used for entertainment purposes. So this is saying 1600s, but it was increasingly used for education during the 19th century, 1800s. Since the late 19th century, smaller versions were also mass-produced as toys. The magic lantern was in wide use from the 18th century until the mid-20th century, when it was superseded by a compact version that could hold many 35mm photographic slides, the slide projector. And you guys knew about this, right? That's where it comes from. God damn it. So yesterday I was looking up something and I came across Christian Huygens. And I was like, where the fuck do I know Christian Huygens from? I couldn't understand why I knew that name. Dutch scientist Christian Huygens is considered as one of the possible inventors of the magic lantern. He knew Athenaeus Kitcher's 1645 edition of Ars Magna Luci et Umbrae, which describes a primitive projection system with a focusing lens and text or pictures painted on a concave mirror reflecting sunlight. Christian's father, Constantine, had been antiquated with Cornelius Drebbel. Here we go. You guys getting it yet? Do you understand how the idea that any of these guys knew each other, let alone all of these guys knew each other? Like, it's just, that's what it shows you, is like, this is where the connections all are. Right? You see the same shit, the same name, the same stories, the same characters. Because again, I think the Jews that programmed the ChatGPT history writer didn't ever really expect us to get this far. Didn't expect the Goyim to be as smart. And they really didn't think this through, and so they didn't put in nearly as many parameters as they should have. So you end up getting all of the same names reused over and over again, and then all the people then coming together because the computer didn't know what else to do. And because they didn't think we'd figure it out, they just let it go. They let it ride, but now it's too late. Now this is the history, and now they can't go back and just start changing it because we'll notice. Hey guys, I'd hate for you guys to get in trouble. It's Friday. You don't want to lose games for the weekend. You're supposed to be chilling out this last day. If you want the weekend to be better, I'd chill out today. Doesn't sound like you're listening, though. Okay, well, I said stop. Oh, well. You know, they're not always going to listen. It's okay. We can go deal with things firsthand. Yep, go. Yep, go. 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 Get up, clean that up, and and then go sit on the couch. You guys, see? You guys are supposed to be on the couch today. Clean that up and then go
do this.
clean it up and then go clean up your room, please. You, go sit on the couch. Huh?
I'm waiting for Nate's thing to be done.
I didn't ask you what you were waiting for.
He's waiting for Rocky and Bullwinkle to be done.
Okay, so then leave him alone. Pick all this crap up. I don't understand why all these coats and stuff. I'm sure it was pretty wild down here for a minute. So I want you to clean all this up for
I
me.
will.
Thanks. You, stay on the couch.
You come out up and try to do something when you guys lose games.
Yeah, and if you keep talking to him, you lose games. Yep. I said if you keep talking to him, you lose games. But. You know, this was something I figured out a while ago. Like, when you have people out there that are constantly looking for the excuse to not listen to what's being said, one of their easiest and go-to forms is to say, oh, where'd you get that information from? YouTube. And although I think YouTube is a great source of information, it's also a source of shit a lot of times. So if somebody wants the excuse, it will be the excuse. That's why that's why I started reading news. That's why I started looking into the narrative I'm supposed to know. If I'm arguing your narrative, but just, you're a lot more of it than you actually know, because you clearly haven't looked into it. Like I was saying with that old man and the whole 76 swine flu thing, I brought it up to him, asking him, like, you remember this shit, right? And they lied and they said all this, and he was like, I don't know about all that. And it was like, well, until I said it, you had forgotten about it. So you clearly haven't been looking this up lately. You haven't looked into it. So how dare you act like you know more than the guy who's telling you, hey, I just watched this video. I just watched it. I just watched the news broadcast. The thing that you trust. The Jews. The Jew at 60 Minutes. You trust him. I watched him do it. And you're going to sit here and be like, I don't know about that. If people want a way out, they'll find it. Yeah, Dutch biologists and chemists play pivotal role in development of science, such as Anton von Leeuwenhoek, father of modern microbiology. I mean, I gotta say, that bit of information coming from you is kind of shocking. I give you credit for that. I wouldn't expect someone who has trouble with words and spelling words, basic words, like the basic. Here I am fucking stumbling over words. Okay, you win. Cornelius Jebel, who used some unidentified. Okay, so wait. Christian's father, Constantine, who had been acquainted with Cornelius Drebel, who used some unidentified optical techniques to transform himself and to summon appearances in magical performances. What? That wasn't in the fucking Drebel biography. What? See, this is the other thing, is like you find this out by following the clues, by piece of candy. Piece of candy. Leeuwenhoek, he made a homemade functional microscope and observed the living cell. Yeah, well, I think you might be wrong on that. Because I think Drebel probably might even take the cake on this. You never know. Like, it's funny when you start looking into things what you find. So Drebel was transforming himself and to summon appearances in magical performances. Some unidentified optical techniques. What are we talking about in 1645? Oh, 1622, sorry. Constantine Huygens wrote about a camera obscura device that he got from Drebel in 1622. The oldest known document concerning the magic lantern is a page on which Constantine Huygens made 10 small sketches of a skeleton taking off its skull. Right. We've all seen that shit. And the thing is, like, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? The oldest known form of this medium is literally skull and bones. You'll know it when you see it in a second. Here, let me see if it pops up. Oh, what the fuck? You guys have seen it. It's that thing where the skeleton does the thing and it pulls its head off. It's the round thing with the images. Like, you guys have all seen that. I'm surprised this doesn't have something to it. Oh, here, your boy's being mentioned. You just spelled it? No, this is a different guy. The oldest known document, blah, 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 of which he wrote, for representations by means of convex glasses with the lamp. As the as this page was found between documents dated in 1659, it is believed to have been made in the same year. And, like, seriously, where did they just find these documents? Think about how crazy that is. Look, God's blessing, his I don't even want to, like, I don't want to make fun of it because it's actually a serious thing. So, but, like, you can see his mood switched. He went from all lovey-dovey back to, I don't like you. I can't argue with what you're saying, so I want you to come here. I want to say something. Like, it's weird how that shit works. Did you have internet? Did you have interest in science, bro? Yeah, sure. But the thing is, once you get to a certain point, you start to realize, like, if some of it's a lie, then all of it could be a lie. And that's where I'm at with all of this. No, you're a tweaker. I'm not being mean. Yep. Super tweaker. Oh, Jesus Christ. Shit's not even in Michigan. Like, if I was in Cali, that might work, but I'm not even... This isn't a tweaking area. Sorry, dude. Again, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the arrogant little Jewish kid who's getting forced to sit at the kids' table, but he wants to sit at the big boy table, so he keeps trying to say things to make himself sound like he belongs at the table, but he ends up just sounding stupid. Monroe is, well, nowhere near Monroe, you dumb douche. And even that, I never heard of tweakers in Monroe. It's not a big thing around here, sorry. Huygens soon seemed to regret this invention as he thought it was too frivolous. In a 1662 letter to his brother, Lodwig, he claimed he thought of it as some old bagatelle and seemed convinced that it would harm the family's reputation if people found out the lantern came from him. Not only is that fucking weird, but why would we have that letter? Like, to think about that shit. Just the idea that a random piece of paper was saved and kept, and it's still around 1622 and 1662 and shit, like, just weird. Christian had reluctantly sent a lantern to their father, but when he realized that Constantine intended to show the lantern to the court of the King Louis XIV of France at the Louvre, Christian asked Ludwig to sabotage the lantern. Why? That is so fucking weird. By George, Detroit is full of everything. William's family disowns him. I mean, so think about it. Who in their right mind, like what regular person is going to get so mad about the things that I'm talking about that they're going to start trying to like shoot the messenger and trying to like what's motivating this guy right now? I'm literally reading Wikipedia and this guy's so mad. Your family's disowning you. And he's all in capital letters and shit. Like, who other than the system is going to be mad about someone like me talking like this? Why would this bother somebody this much? This guy has been here I've been here for 2 hours. He's been here for almost all of it. And this is not his first day. And he does this, like, what? I tell you guys this all the time. When you really start trying to figure things out, one of the first things you need to figure out is logistics. And do the logistics make sense? And one big part of the logistics is the motivation. What would motivate somebody to do whatever it is they're doing? And when you think like it's Friday morning, this guy is angry because I'm reading Wikipedia and talking about magic lanterns and shit. Like, who's going to do that? And because they can't actually debunk anything I'm saying, he's desperately trying. Tweaker! Like what kind of weirdo shit is that? I could never, ever be that person. If I'm going to go to somebody's page, I'm going to focus in on what they're saying and try to, engage them in the conversation being had. But what do you expect? Somebody called God's blessing has arrogance issues, unlike things most of us can relate to. So to think this guy is willing to talk about anything but himself is probably foolish on my end. I'm not even talking about what you're talking about. I'm talking about you moving around, can't sit down, still you tweaking out. Yep, that's what it is. Christian Huygens initially referred, now, again, he's literally saying it, though. Like, he's literally saying, I can't talk about anything you're talking about. So I'm going to desperately focus in on one thing that I guess like I said earlier, if you want to find the problem or find an excuse, you will. Oh, that person, I don't like their haircut. I don't like the way your beard is shaved. You're walking back and forth. I don't like videos where someone's walking. It's interesting how that always works out. If I was sitting down, then it would be something else. And, when you can't actually focus in on the information, and this guy actually acknowledges it, I can't focus in on what you're saying or what you're talking about. I just need attention, and I want everybody else to think poorly of you. If I can get other people to think there's something wrong with you, then maybe they won't hear what you're saying as easily. Shoot the messenger. If the messenger is crazy, then the message must be crazy too. And this is just what Jews do. This is how they operate. You don't ever hear Netanyahu or any of the Jews that are in charge. Netanyahu, Bezalel Smotrich, Itmar Ben-Gvir, or the Jew puppets, the Anthony Blinkens and the Jake Sullivans and the Joe Bidens and all the Trumps and all these guys. You never hear them deny what Israel's doing. No one ever denies that there's a genocide taking place. No one ever denies that the Israelis are these horrible, fucking disgusting people. What they do is say that we're not allowed to talk about it. They condemn you for talking about it, and they've tricked you into thinking anti-Semitism is a bad thing, when anti-Semitism is exactly what everyone should be, should believe, be very proud of your anti-Semitism. Semitism is supremacy, and if you don't oppose supremacy, then you're a fucking fool. Oh look, I lost a like. Somebody doesn't like when I say things like that. It's funny. Sorry if you don't like it's crazy how people they get mad at they don't understand what words mean. They get mad at education. The more you know, man, the dumber you sound. The more you can repeat, the more you understand. Like they're just lying. It's all just stupid shit. Start talking about the origins of the universe and shit, and you'll find yourself saying the dumbest things. But look, this is the system. The same system that wants you to believe the stupidity is the same system that comes at me with the stupidity. Anyway, Christian initially referred to the magic lantern as la lampe and la lanterne, but in the last years of his life, he used the then common term lantern magicia in some notes. In 1694, he drew the principle of the lantern magicia with two lenses. This is crazy. It's crazy. I don't want to read any more about this. We're doing submarines. So. But just so you know, there's more to the thing than you know. Okay, so I wanted to read the rest of this, though. We're back to Drebel. Around 1604, the Drebel family moved to England, because moving across those large distances was easy back then. Probably at the invitation of the new King James I of England, fourth of Scotland. He was accommodated by he was accommodated at Eltham Palace, which is just fucking insane. Guess I can't. I gotta show you if I'm gonna say it. Yeah, that's where he was. Makes sense. Why wouldn't that be it? 1500s, baby. Oh, there's the inside. Must have been after the fire. All those archways and shit. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't they build that? That's how we build shit now. Inside of the rooms, I guess. Anyway. Drebel worked there at the Masks. Masks? I don't know. Masques? I don't know what that word is. Mosques? I guess that's mosques, isn't it? Mosque. I thought MOSQ. I thought it was spelled differently and capitalized. That were performed, but no. He worked there at the. What is this word? Define. A covering for all or part of the face, worn as a disguise, or to amuse or terrify other people. It's a mask. That's what that word means. Is mask. That's, I guess, how you say it. But mask, masquerade. Why is it said like that though? That's just fucking strange. Why? That's why I couldn't like.
Mask.
Yeah, that's. Why is it like that? That's fucking weird. Oh shit. Cornelius Drebel. We were reading about Drebel. It's fucking weird. I had to go all the way out. Not only that. Anyway, we had just gotten to this part. I wanted you guys to hear this. It's fucking crazy. So he worked there at the masks that were performed by and for the court. He was attached to the court of young Renaissance Crown Prince Henry. He astonished the court with his demonstration of a perpetual motion machine, automatic and hydraulic organs, and his optical instruments. His fame went through the courts of Europe. In October 1610, Drebel and his family moved to Prague at the invitation of Roman German Emperor Rudolph II. He must have been a bigger emperor, I guess, who was preoccupied with the arts, alchemy, and occult sciences. Here again, Drebel demonstrated his inventions, where in 1611, Rudolph II was stripped of all effective power by his younger brother, Archduke Matthias. Drebel was imprisoned for about a year. After Rudolph's death in 1612, Drebel was set free and went back to London in 1613. Right, because again, that's what you do, right? Like you just go from place to place in 1600s. You just jump on a wagon. You put an extra wheel on the back in case you have wheel trouble, and you just go on the non-paved roads from place to place. After being imprisoned until the guy died for some reason. Why would he have been imprisoned until the guy died and then let go? These are stupid stories. Unfortunately, his patron, Prince Henry, you gotta love these book report answers. I'm telling you, these entries are basically book reports. They give you just enough details to satisfy the book report. And if you're a smart kid, you come here, you move some of the sentences around, and you change some of the words, and you have your book report, just like that. But it's, when the teacher tells you got to have 5,000 words, is when you start doing things like had also. Henry had also died. Not also died. Had also died. Had also died, and Drebel was in financial trouble yet again. All these he can make magic, he can appear, he can do all these things, engraver, painter, inventor, all these things, and yet again, he's in financial trouble. With his glass grinding machine, he manufactured optical instruments and compound microscopes with 2 convex lenses for which there was a constant demand. Yeah, back then, everybody was just demanding compound microscopes. Yet he was in financial troubles. At the request of the Roman German Emperor Ferdinand II in 1619, he went to Prague again to tutor his sons and was taken prisoner after the Battle of White Mountain and the capture of Prague in 1620, where he also lost his fortune. Then again, he lost it again. In 1622, Constantin Huygens stayed as a diplomat for more than a year in England. It is quite possible that he learned the art of glass grinding at the time from Drebel, who had quite possibly learned it from him, right? Wasn't that what they said? And that he passed this knowledge to his second son, Constantin Huygens. So it's Constantin and it's Constian. His second son, Constian Huygens, who became a prominent Dutch mathematician and scientist. The English natural philosopher Robin Hooke may have learned the art of glass grinding from his acquaintance Johannes Sibertus Kuffler, the son-in-law of Drebel, of course. Toward the end of his life, in 1633, Drebel was involved in a plan to drain the fens around Cambridge while living in near poverty, running an alehouse in England. He died in London. I mean, think about how crazy that. He was going to drain, in 1633, they're going to drain a moat or whatever, that's a lake that's around, whatever that's around Cambridge. Gotcha. In keeping with traditional Mennonite practices, Drebel's estate was split between his 4 living children at the time of his death. Drebel was an empirical researcher and innovator. His constructions and innovations cover measurements of control and technology, cover measurements and control technology, pneumatics, optics, chemistry, hydraulics, and pyrotechnics. He registered several patents with the Dutch Staten Generaal. He also wrote essays about his experiments with air pressure and made beautiful engravings, including the Seven Liberal Arts on a map of the city of Alkmaar. He was also involved in making theater props, moving statues, and in plans to build a new theater in London. Moving statues, moving statues. He worked on producing torpedoes, naval mines, detonators that used glass Bavarian tears, and worked on fulminating gold, arum fulminis, as an explosive. He was known for his perpetuum mobile, built an incubator for eggs, and a portable stove oven with an optimal use of fuel, able to keep the heat on a constant temperature by means of a regulator/thermostat. He designed a solar energy system for London, perpetual fire, demonstrated air conditioning, made lightning and thunder on command, and developed fountains and a fresh water supply for the city of Middleburg. He was involved in the draining of the moors around Cambridge, the Fens, developed predecessors of the barometer and the thermometer, and harpsichord that played on solar energy. Oh, look, the guy got rid of all his comments. That's pretty funny. Robert Hooke was first who defined structure of cell like honeycomb. Yeah, sure. At some point, you got to realize, like, this is all bullshit, right? Don't you get it? Thunder and lightning on command? Air conditioning? A fresh water supply for the city of Middleburg? A solar energy system for London? Perpetual fire? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Oh, yeah, and this is the guy that fucking invented the submarine. So we're just going to keep reading. Fuck it. Drebels. This is his work on chemistry. Drebel's most famous written work was, I'm not going to try, a short treatise on the nature of elements, Haarlem, 1621. He was also involved in the invention of mercury fulminate. He also discovered that mixtures of spiritus vini with mercury and silver in aqua fortis could explode. Drebel invented a chicken incubator and a mercury thermostat which automatically kept it stable at a constant temperature. One of the first recorded feedback controlled devices. It just says that. Drebel invented a chicken incubator and a mercury thermostat which kept it stable at a constant temperature, semicolon, one of the first recorded feedback control devices. He also developed and demonstrated a working air conditioning system. The invention of a working thermometer is also credited to Drebel. Polymath. Gotta love these polymaths. They can do anything, anytime. Oh, you'll agree with me on this, but not the rest. Gotcha. You tell me when you stop agreeing then. How's that? The story, now, next is scarlet dye. The story goes that while making a colored liquid for a thermometer, Cornelius dropped a flask of aqua regina on a tin windowsill and discovered that stannous chloride makes the color of carmine much brighter and more durable. Although Cornelius did not make much money from his work, his daughters Anna and Kathina and his sons Abraham and Johannes Stibberus Kuffler set up a very successful dye works. One was set up in 1643 in Bow, London, and the resulting color was called bow dye. The recipe for color Cufflerinius was kept a family secret, and a new bright red color was very popular. And the new bright red color was very popular in Europe. Gotta love all these nonsense details, right? Optics. Drebel is credited with developing an automatic precision lens grinding machine, improved telescopes, the first compound microscope, camera obscura, lantern magica, and Dutch or Bavarian tears. This guy made all of it. Like seriously. This is like Elon Musk, but if Elon Musk actually invented everything, or like Steve Jobs, if Steve Jobs was actually the guy behind everything and not the warehouse full of nerds he had. You know, Bill Burr does that bit where he talks about, Jobs came into work one day and was like, "Yeah, I want my entire fucking music library on this. Here, you make that happen." And those guys had to figure it out. And once they did, Jobs went out there like a rock star and took all the credit. That's usually how it works. What he tells us, that's true. What about Robert Boyle's gas laws? How it works? I mean, just because there's a story doesn't mean it's true. And I bet if you look at the story, you'll have more. Like, a lot of this stuff you haven't looked at since you were, forced to when you were a kid or whatever. Maybe it's just been a while. But once your mindset changes and you go into it skeptically instead of looking at it to like, as it's the truth, it doesn't matter what it says, it's the truth. I'm just going to learn it so I can regurgitate it. Once you have a skeptical approach, a lot of it just loses its luster, man. It just doesn't make as much sense. Okay, one of the optical devices some historians believe Drevel invented when he was working for the Duke of Buckingham was the compound microscope. The device appeared in Europe around 1620, with the earliest account being Dutch ambassador Willem Borrell's 1619 visit to London, where he saw a compound microscope in Drebel's possession, described as an instrument about 18 inches long, 2 inches in diameter, and supported on 3 brass dolphins. In 1621, Drebel had a compound microscope with 2 convex lenses. Several of his contemporaries, including Christian Huygens, credited the invention of the compound microscope to Drebel. The invention now see, look, now we're going to go into this bullshit about whether or not he invented it, instead of telling us how he invented it. How he came up with all of these ideas. Like, how did that whole thing come to be? How many different examples did he try? Was this his first try at it and he just nailed it on the first try? How did he figure all this out? That's the part that you're not going to get the details to. You're just going to get this other bullshit about, no, this guy said he invented it, and then in 1624, Galileo saw Drebel's design for a microscope in Rome and created an improved version of it to send to Francisco Assisi, founder of the Academie de Lindsay, who used it to illustrate Apiarium, a book about bees. Like, it gives you details so that you think you have details. You just don't realize how stupid the details are. All right, so here you go. For all those, I thought this was about submarines. First of all, this is a picture of the first submarine, right? See, and I always say this to people. Whenever you're shown something like this, whenever you're shown anything, especially the Holocaust footage, that's a good one. I know that was a big switch, huh? Whenever you're looking at stuff, immediately all of you look at the submarine, right? You all see the weird little bug-shaped submarine. Look at the background, right? Who the fuck built that giant fucking cathedral back there? I mean, this is a cityscape right here. This is the 1500s, right? 1600s. This is a goddamn city. Look at all the different towers in the background. And then you have this monstrosity. This church is way bigger than we think it is. And they're going for realism here. This isn't like some artist's interpretation. This is the artist rendition of what that thing actually looked like. Get the fuck out of here. Stupid. Stupid. He also built the first navigable submarine in 1620 while working for the English Royal Navy. This guy was just everywhere doing everything, and yet he was broke all the time. The pictures are of the Dutch Golden Age. Right, the Dutch Golden Age. Right. Because somehow, some way, everybody has a golden age where they build the same fucking same like that church could have been anywhere in the United States. We have multiple. They all built the same buildings, same. Somehow everybody just gets this knowledge, does these impossible things with it's impossible. They don't have the tools for it. Like it's just stupid. How do you get all the materials there? Oh, well, they just had horses. Yeah, they had horses dragging these huge concrete blocks or these huge marble blocks or the sandstone or whatever it may be from hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. Oh, yeah. Oh, they had it shipped across the ocean. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what it was. Like, we just accept these ideas without really thinking about how stupid it is. And then also thinking about who you think those people were. When I talk about that age of the world, you think about fucking people in huts. How the fuck did they even exist, man? They slept on hay and had mice and bugs everywhere. And a Tom and Jerry's a thing because everybody had mice in their house back. Back when they were tricking people into thinking it was because the vaccines were getting better, instead of the idea that they were putting screens in windows and they weren't the plumbing was invented and they were no longer throwing shit everywhere, and the bed bugs and all the different lice and fleas and all that was getting taken care of. That was what was stopping the transfer of all this nastiness. But instead, you think it's because they were coughing and sneezing on each other. Get the fuck out of here. But there are still some genius people. Yeah, there are genius people. They're not polymaths. They're not architects, painters, fucking programmers, swordsmen, I mean, you got to be silly when you think playwrights and directors and congressmen and, we don't have people like that. The smartest guy that supposedly ever existed was a remote control car. You don't even know if that guy was real or not. He couldn't even fucking move or talk or anything. They just wheeled his ass out with this magic wheelchair. How come nobody else has that wheelchair? He has a wheelchair that not only can go where he wants it to go, but it can have conversations for him. And all he's doing is barely moving his eyes anymore. Like by the end, he's barely moving his eyes. And yet, I mean, this technology would be old by now. And yet, I don't know about anybody else with that kind of wheelchair. Do you? Stephen Hawking is the perfect fucking foil, man. A remote control car that everybody thinks is super smart. They feel bad about denying. Oh, well, you can't say anything. Look at him. You can't say anything bad about him. And you just believe the most impossible shit because they tell you or he tells you. Between 1620 and 1624, Drebel successfully built and tested 2 more submarines, each one bigger than the last. The third and final model had 6 oars and could carry 16 passengers. This model was demonstrated to King James I in person and several thousand Londoners. The submarine stayed submerged for 3 hours and could travel from Westminster to Greenwich and back, cruising at a depth of 12 to 15 feet. Where'd they get their air from? I mean, again, if you're saying it's a depth of, I'm assuming it's all the way underwater that deep. But I don't think that's what they mean. I think just the bottom of the boat is that deep. The top of the boat is still sticking out of the water, I'm pretty sure. Drebel even took King James in this submarine on a test drive beneath the Thames, making King James the first monarch to travel underwater. This submarine was tested many times in the Thames, but it couldn't attract enough enthusiasm from the Admiralty and was never used in combat. Because that makes sense, doesn't it? Doesn't that make sense to you guys? Nobody thought that they could use a submarine in battle for another 100 fucking years. And are you willing to just chalk it up to genius that it's in writing, it's there for you to see that he was able to make it thunder and lightning on command? Are we just going to overlook that shit? Ancient people built different, such as Archimedes. He made hydraulic system which help in defense of coastal towns. The shit that you just accept, man. The narratives that you just accept, they're just silly. You literally have no proof, no reason. It's just a story you've been told, and you want to believe it. It's really weird. All right, so we're back to submarines. I want to finish this. Because you're going to notice something really interesting happen here. There's always the yada yada, right? So we yada yada from we start in 1620 with Drebel. Then we go by the mid 18th century. Over a dozen patents for submarines, submersible boats had been granted in England. In 1747, 120 years later, Nathaniel Simons patented and built the first known working example of the use of a ballast tank for submersion. His design used leather bags that could be filled with water to submerge the craft. Doesn't make sense. A mechanism was used to twist the water out of the bags and cause the boat to resurface. In 1749, the Gentleman's Magazine reported that a similar design had been initially proposed by Giovanni Borilli in 1680. Further design improvements stagnated for over a century until application of new technologies for propulsion and stability. So 1620, Cornelius builds this fucking amazing submarine that can travel all this way, blah, blah, blah. The king travels, this, that, and the other. But no military interest in it. 1747, 120 years later, this other guy builds this thing that supposedly makes the ballast work better. The things that make the sub go up and down. But then this magazine reports 2 years after he makes it that, hey, wait a minute. He didn't make that. Giovanni Barilli made that in 1680. Some, 70 years earlier. How the fuck would they know? I always wonder about this. Like, we're talking about, like, donkey people. The donkey people that could somehow build castles and shit. But this idea that like in 1749, somebody is looking through the library of submarines and figures out, oh, wait a minute, Giovanni Barilli actually did this. I'm going to write a report on it. That Nathaniel Simons is a fraud. And he writes the report, and then here it's 2024, and I know about it because the report that this random guy wrote, this random magazine wrote, like of all the magazines that existed and all that all over, this one magazine wrote this one article that I guess here we are hundreds of years later, and we still know about that. I never knew about the gentleman. Like, think about how weird that is. How just weirdly, like, just some weird details that just happen to exist to sort of strengthen the narrative. In case you were questioning things, in case you thought maybe they weren't telling you the truth, well, just so you know, there's this. Yeah, even this is there. See, there's even some contradiction. Like, where the fuck would they have gotten that information from? The first submersible was Turtle, 1775, a hand-powered acorn-shaped device designed by American David Bushnell to accommodate a single person. It was the first verified submarine capable of independent underwater operation and movement, and was the first to use screws for propulsion. It's the goofiest shit in the world. It really is just goofy as fuck. This thing here. This. So the top of it, this top part, oh god damn it. Okay, the top part is where the head is, the guy's head is, and he looks out. And that's how he can see where he's going, and that's how light comes in. And then, oh shit. And then these two little things up here are the snorkels. That's where the air supply comes from. So apparently the waves, this thing sets in the water all the way up to the top part, all the way up to here. And yet the waves never come up and get inside the snorkel and, fill the thing with water. Like, it's all, nope. It's just air coming in through there. And so that's the best. Look at the design. Look at the rudder controls. He controls the rudder with his butt cheeks. It looks like a thing that goes in between his butt cheeks, and he controls it like that. One foot is controlling the pump, while one arm is going like this to move the thing, and the other arm, I mean, it's so stupid. The other arm operates the attaching screw where they screw, it has a screw on it that screws into other boats and attaches a mine to that screw that then he slowly goes away in his secret acorn sub, and it supposedly blows up. Here, oh, there's a good modern looking design. I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. And yet, you have to believe this. If I'm crazy because you have to believe this. That's the thing. So, all of these different adaptations, apparently it's all the same thing. For some reason, the original sub disappears. And so they have all these different adaptations. Why don't they know exactly what it looks like? Oh, there's a different version of it. Strange, huh? Oh, there's a different version of it. There's that one again. That's the first submarine in history, and it failed. It failed. Okay, so in the 1800s, France built the Nautilus, a human-powered submarine designed by Robert Fulton. They gave up on the experiment in 1804, as did the British when they reconsidered Fulton's submarine design. So, did these guys not know about the 1500s because they didn't know about Drebel? How did the other guys know about Drebel, but these guys, why didn't they just use Drebel's design? That thing seems like it worked really well. In 1850, now so again, so they were working on it for 4 years. In France, 1800, they built the Nautilus, but they gave up in 1804. They were like, fuck this is too much. They gave up, and so did the British. 50 years later, in 1850, Wilhelm Bauer's Brauntalker was built in Germany. It remains the oldest surviving submarine, which again, it sank, and it was somehow discovered in 1887, and they were able to lift it out of the water. They were able to raise it. It was in 16 meters of water, and had been there for like 20, 30 years, whatever. No, yeah, 20, no, in 1850. So in 1887 is when they found it, and they pulled it out of the thing. So 37 years later, they were able to pull it out of the bottom of the 16-meter deep lagoon, and it was fine. Okay, so in 1864, now we just jumped to 1864, late in the Civil War. The Confederate Navy's H.L. Hunley became the first military submarine to sink an enemy vessel. The Union, okay, so we got to look up the Hunley now, right? H.L. Hunley, also known as the Hunley, CSS H.L. Hunley, or CSS Hunley, was a submarine of the Confederate States of America that played a small part in the American Civil War. Hunley demonstrated the advantages and dangers of undersea warfare. She was the first combat submarine to sink a warship, USS Housatonic. Although Hunley was not completely submerged, and following her attack was lost along with her crew before she could return to base. So, this is not a submarine, and it failed. It sank this big ass ship because we had the factories and capabilities and shit to build ships like that back then. Why wouldn't we? It was commissioned on August 29th, 1862, and it was sunk on February 17th, 1864. So, I mean, August 29th, you might as well be September. September, October, November, December. That's 4 months. So it was a year and a half exactly. A year and 6 months after it was commissioned, it was sunk. They were able to build these huge ass ships. This was 205 feet long, the beam of 38 feet, a draft of 8 feet 7 inches. It had sail and steam propulsion, could go 9 knots, 10 miles per hour. 160 officers and enlisted. It had lots of armaments on it. Really interesting, huh? We were just capable of building all kinds of shit like this back in... It was launched... Oh, it was launched on November 20th, 1861. It was launched on November 20th, 1861, and commissioned on August 29th, 1862. What's the difference there? I wonder what the difference is. If you know it, explain it, please. Wow, that's really strange. But I mean, just think about that. Like, who was building these things? Let's see. Will they say it? Housatonic was launched on November 20th, 1861 by the Boston Navy Yard in Charleston, Massachusetts, sponsored by Miss Jane Coffin Kobe and Miss Susan Patters Hudson. What the fuck does that mean? They sponsored it in the Boston Naval Yard and commissioned thereon. Commissioned. Ship commissioning is the act or ceremony of placing a ship in active service and may be regarded as a particular application of the general concepts and practices of project commissioning. The term is most commonly applied to placing a warship in active duty with its country's military forces. The ceremony involved are often rooted in centuries-old naval tradition. Ship naming and launching. endow a ship hull with her identity, but many milestones remain before it is completed and considered ready to be designated a commissioned ship. The engineering plant, weapon, and electric systems, galley, and other equipment required to transform the new hull into an operating and habitable warship are installed and tested. The prospective commanding officer, ship's officers and petty officers and seamen who will form the crew report for training and familiarization with their new ship. Before commissioning, the new ship undergoes sea trials to identify any deficiencies needing correction. In preparation and readiness time between christening, launching, and commissioning may be as much as 3 years for a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to be as brief as 20 days for a World War II landing ship. USS Monitor of American Civil War fame was commissioned less than 3 weeks after launch. So it makes you wonder what the fuck they're talking about then. But she was commissioned there on uh, where? In the Boston Navy Yard, I guess? On August 29th, 1862. So this thing was launched basically a little over a year before it was commissioned. So it seemingly went through a shit ton of tests. So there was, like, think about that. Not only was it built, there was a whole Navy's worth of, testing and all. Like, just strange to think about. 1862, huh? With Commander William Rogers Taylor in command. Houstonic was one of the 4 sister ships, which included USS Adriatic, USS Ossipee, and USS Juanita. Houstonic is recognized as being the first ship sunk in combat by a submarine when she was attacked and sunk by H.L. Hunley in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. Service history: Houstonic departed Boston on September 11th. Oh man, that's fucking funny. Because it has to be, right? The first ship to be sunk by a submarine departed on September 11th and arrived in Charleston, South Carolina on September 19th to join the South Atlantic Blockade Squadron. She took squadron outside the bar. These are all these different things that she was supposedly involved in. The wreck on February 20th, 1864, Captain Joseph W. Green of the USS Canandaigua survived the wreck and observed that the ship's spar deck was about 15 feet below the water and that the deck appears to have been entirely blown off. Soon thereafter, the Union began recovery efforts to raise the Houstonic's guns, which was accomplished later in 1864. Of course it was. In 1872, the Army Corps of Engineers commissioned Benjamin Malafret to clear some of the wrecks from the Charleston Harbor, including the Houstonic. Throughout 1873 and 1874, Malafret scavenged the wreck for any useful materials, and in 1909, the remnants of the ship, notably its boilers, were further broken up to ensure the wreck was not a hazard. Guys, how are they doing this? In the 1870s, they are exploring underwater? I mean, was this harbor really shallow or something? Charleston Harbor. It doesn't tell me. Is an inlet in the Atlantic Ocean of Charleston, South Carolina. The inlet is formed by the junction of Ashley and Cooper Rivers, and the Sullivan Islands shelter the entrance. Charleston Harbor forms part of the Intercoastal Waterway. I don't get any sort of details on the depth. That's fucking weird. Transportation. The harbor includes public terminals. Existing federal channels are dredged to an authorized depth of 45 feet below mean low level water. So it's deep. As of 2015, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began designing and deepening the channels to 52 feet. The harbor deepening project was spurred by the Panama Canal's recent expansion in an effort to handle larger ships traveling from Panama without facing restrictions listed above. As of May 2017, the project will cost around $500 million, with $317 million federally allocated. Port officials plan to make Charleston Harbor the deepest harbor in the East Coast by the end of the decade. So, I still, isn't it strange? Why can't I find out how deep that shit was? Okay, we went with the Houstonic, the Hunley. Was submerged, not completely submerged following attack, lost along with her crew before she could return to base. 21 crewmen died in the three sinkings of Hunley during her short career. She was named for her inventor, Horace L. Lawson Hunley, shortly after she was taken into government service under the control of the Confederate Army at Charleston. Horace Lawson Hunley was a Confederate Marine engineer during the American Civil War, December 29th, 1823 to October 15th, 1863. He developed early hand-powered submarines, the most famous of which was posthumously named for him, the H.L. Hunley. Hunley was born in Sumner County, Tennessee, to Louisa Hardson Lawson and John Hunley. We got to know that shit. After relocating to New Orleans, Hunley studied law at the University of Louisiana and was admitted to the bar in 1849. He served in Louisiana state legislature and practiced law in New Orleans. In response to the Union blockade of the southern ports, the Confederate government offered bounties of up to $50,000 to anyone who sank a Union warship. In the summer of 1861, the Reverend Franklin Smith advocated Southern businessmen pursue submarine warfare in writings to Southern newspapers. At this time, Hunley joined engineer James R. McClintock and Baxter Watson in building the Pioneer submarine. Pioneer was the first of three submarines privately developed and paid for by Horace Lawson Hunley, James McClintock, and Baxter Watson. While the U.S. Navy was constructing its first submarine, USS Alligator, during the American Civil War in late 1861, the Confederates were doing so as well. Horace L. Hunley, James McClintock, and Baxter Watson built Pioneer in New Orleans and Louisiana. It was the first of three submarines financially backed by Hunley, Pioneer 2, and Hunley. The Pioneer was 30 feet long and 4 feet in diameter. The crew consisted of a pilot with one man to rotate the propeller manually. Well, consisted of a pilot and one man. It was equipped with an explosive that would be attached to the hull of the enemy vessel and blown up using a clockwork mechanism. It's just a clockwork mechanism, you know, fucking A, 1860s. Pioneer was tested in February 1862 in the Mississippi River, and later was towed to Lake Pontchartrain for additional trials, where it successfully managed to sink a schooner. But the Union advance towards New Orleans the following month prompted the men to abandon development and scuttle Pioneer in the New Basin Canal. On April 25th, 1862, the team followed the Pioneer 2, or American Diver, built. The team followed with the Pioneer 2, or American Diver, built after they relocated to Mobile, Alabama. The scuttled Pioneer was raised and examined by Union troops. The Times-Picayune of New Orleans of February 15th, 1868, reported Pioneer had been sold for scrap. Jesus Christ. The Bayou St. John submarine, now in the collection of the Louisiana State Museum, was for decades misidentified as Pioneer. The Bayou St. John submarine and Pioneer may have undergone trials at about the same time, and confusion between the two may date back to contemporary accounts. It is not clear which of the two was constructed first. A life-size model of Pioneer can be viewed and explored at the Maritime Museum of Louisiana. Wait, the Bayou St. John submarine. Oh, Jesus Christ. Look at that.
The fuck is that?
It's the Bayou St. John. Bayou St. John. There's a submarine there. There it is.
That doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense. The Bayou St. John submarine is an early military submarine built for use in the Confederate States of America during American Civil War. No period documentation for the submarine is known to exist, and its original name and many details about it remain unknown. The submarine was rediscovered in 1878 during the dredging of the Bayou St. John, where it joins Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1878, they were able to dredge rivers.
Before they could make bridges.
Yep. Where the submarine was presumably scuttled to prevent it falling into the Union hands after the capture of New Orleans. It was put on display beside the bayou at the Spanish Fort Amusement Park and curiously incorrectly identified as the Confederate submarine Pioneer. The traditional identification of the Pioneer was not questioned until historical research in the late 20th century showed the Pioneer to be a different design than the one retrieved from Bayou St. John. The Bayou submarine and the Pioneer may have undergone trials at about the same time, and confusion of the two may date back to contemporary accounts. It is not clear which one of was constructed first. I feel like I've already read that exact same sentence. In 1908, the submarine was moved to the grounds of Camp Nicholas Confederate home on Moss Street beside Bayou St. John. At some point, probably in the 1930s, the interior of the submarine was filled with concrete in an attempt at preservation that later generations of conservators found questionable. So, somewhere in the 30s, they thought, hey, let's keep this for all time by filling it with concrete.
That just seems like a waste of concrete.
That seems like something that by 1930 we knew wasn't a good idea. In 1942, the submarine was acquired by the Louisiana State Museum and moved to Jackson Square. After being in various displays around the square, it was placed in a shelter of the arcade on the ground floor of the Probester in 1957, where it remained until 1998. The submarine was transported to Baton Rouge, blah, 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 blah. That's what you get. So, at the end of the day, it's a we don't know thing.
Come on. Hey. Right there.
So that's this is all part of the first submarines. Like, I'm trying to show you how ridiculous all this is. Here's an 1864 painting of the Hunley. Now you have to remember, we had cameras back then. Right? Think about this shit. Why aren't there pictures of it? Why wasn't anybody documenting these trials of these people that are fucking traveling underwater for the first time? Don't you think that's a strange thing to just be sort of nonchalant about? Like, fucking, I don't care. We're taking pictures of all kinds of shit, but not that. Hey, get the mail, please. All right, so we went with, okay, so we were at 1864, the Houstonic, using a gunpowdered filled keg on a spar as a torpedo charge. The Hunley also sank. The explosion's shock waves may have killed its crew instantly, preventing them from pumping the blige or propelling the submarine. Wait, I thought because see, it's weird because if you go to the actual thing, it says that it was sunk because it was able to be seen and was sunk on its way back. So now they're saying the shock wave did it. In 18 so we're 1864, now we're at 1866. 1866, Submarine Explorer was the first submarine to successfully dive, cruise underwater, and resurface under the crew's control. Yeah. What's up? I know. Did you grab it? Can you grab it, please? Can you grab it, please? Can you grab the mail, please? The design by German American Julius H. Kroll incorporated elements that are still used in modern submarines. Okay, well, let's check out Submarine Explorer. Is a submersible built between 1863 and 1866 by Julius H. Kroll and Ariel Patterson in Brooklyn, New York for the Pacific Pearl Company. Pacific Pearl Company had them building. Well, I mean, it's just like it's weird that the Pacific Pearl Company was having people build submarines. Like they weren't a, we weren't successful at it, and I still don't understand. So much of the technology is still just a mystery as to how are they doing it. You know, how are they breathing underwater? How are they seeing underwater? This one is said to be the first one to go underwater and cruise around, right? Let's see what it says. Now, remember this. Like, I'm the crazy one. I'm the one that's saying that I don't think these exist. So I should be in your guys' world where submarines do exist. This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be able to create doubt by reading the history of it. That's why it's important to do it this way. It was hand powered and had an interconnected system of high pressure air chamber or compartment. An interconnected system of a high pressure air chamber or compartment, a pressurized working chamber for the crew, and water ballast tanks. Problems with decompression sickness and overfishing of the pearl beds led to the abandonment of Submarine Explorer in Panama in 1869, despite publicized plans to shift the craft to the pearl beds of Baja California. I just don't get these stories where they were like, oh, okay, well, let's just leave it here then. The technology isn't necessary, the metal isn't necessary, let's just leave it. Laid down 1863, launched 1865, acquired 1865, in service 1866, out of service 1869, fate abandoned. Displacement 80 tons, length 39.4 feet, beam 11 feet, propulsion single propeller, speed 4 knots, 4.6 miles per hour. Complement 3 to 6. Construction. The Submarine Explorer had an external high air pressure chamber. Which was filled with compressed air at a pressure of up to 200 pounds per square inch by a steam pump mounted on an external support vessel. A steam pump mounted on an external support vessel. So this was something that has a tube attached to it then, right? Because if it has the air attached to the external, that's what the external support vessel is, right? Water ballast tanks were flooded to make the vessel submerge. Pressurized air was then released into the vessel to build up enough pressure so it would be possible to open two hatches on the underside while keeping water out. Right. I love these stories, right? They have the thing that's down at the bottom and they can lift the hatches, and the pressure that's on the inside keeps the water from rushing in, right? And they don't at all jostle a little bit or anything like that. Nope. The water just stays out and it's just. Can you imagine somebody convincing you to do that? All right, we're down in this dark thing because it's 1800 something or other. We're down at the bottom of the whatever it is, under 200 pounds of air pressure somehow, attached to a boat up at the top. And I'm like, all right, open that hatch right there. And you can't, I mean, again, we're at the bottom of a lagoon or whatever. It's 18, there's no lights. What are we seeing with? I go open that hatch and you go, what hatch? Who said that? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? This is so stupid. And I'm supposed to be the crazy one, right? This meant that air pressure inside the submarine had to equal water pressure at diving depth, which they knew. And it's not like that pressure changes foot by foot or whatever. No, they just know that if they get down to 46 feet, it's this. 47 feet, it's this. Okay, this meant the pressure that was exposing had to equal the depth, exposing the crew to high pressure, making them susceptible to decompression sickness, which was unknown at the time. To surface, more of the pressured air was used to empty the ballast tanks of water. So these guys have at least 200 pounds of air pressure on their, just pushing on them. And they're like, okay, add some more air so we can come up. A contemporary, August 1869, newspaper account of dives in Submarine Explorer off Panama documents 11 days of diving to 103 feet, spending 4 hours per dive, then ascending with a quick release of the pressure to ambient sea level pressure. Their heads probably exploded. So, it's 1869. What are they using? They're down at the bottom of the water, 103 feet, for 4 hours. What are they using to see? Please don't tell me they have some sort of lantern under pressurized air like that. How is this even a... I'm not reading a fantasy story here. I am reading you the legitimate history of submarines right now. If this doesn't trigger something inside you to make you like, something's wrong, I really don't know what to say here. Like, this is wild shit to me. This is so fascinating to me. 103 feet, 4 hours per dive, and then they're like, woo, let's just go. They come right up. Modern reconstruction of Explorer's system suggests an ascension rate of 1 foot per second, or a rise to the surface in just under 2 minutes. The problems of decompression do not appear to have been clearly understood. The contemporary references note that at the conclusion of the dives, all of the men were again down with fever, and it being impossible to continue working with the same men for some time, it was decided the experiment having proved a complete success, to lay the machine up in an adjacent cove. The New York Times. This is the New York Times, August 29th, 1869. Okay, so we were able to do this. The guys got sick. Leave the submarine here. Let's get out of here. That makes sense to you, doesn't it? The basic premise of Submarine Explorer was based on an earlier 1858 patent by Van Buren Ryerson of New York for a diving bell also named Submarine Explorer. Ned Ryerson and Kroll had worked together, Kroll using Ryerson's bell to blast and particularly clear or in partially clear Diamond Reef in New Harbor. Oh, right. They were using those diving bells to lay dynamite and blast away shit underwater. Right. Why wouldn't they be? You guys, I'm fucking stupid for questioning this, you guys. You're right. This makes so much sense. I'm glad I read this so I could get this understanding. Kroll, working with Brooklyn shipbuilder Ariel Patterson, extensively modified Ned Ryerson's design, extending the hull from a 12-meter long, 39-foot, 11-foot craft, 11-foot diameter craft of intricate design. While some have termed Kroll's Submarine Explorer a glorified diving bell, like it's funny how when you read about this, there's always so much hatred between people, and there's always this animosity, and it's like they weren't working like, yeah, man, he got that far, cool. That makes me want to get. Maybe I can use his designing. They're not like that. They're always like, man, look at him with his glorified diving bell. Nah. Like, who the fuck? Why is it like that? That just doesn't seem very. I wear a top hat and I walk around outside with my cane and my lady has her dress and hat on. That doesn't seem like those kind of people. They seem really petty. It's sophisticated. Okay, while some have dubbed it a glorified diving bell, its sophisticated systems of ballast, pressurization, and propulsion make it a 19th century ascendant. Is that ascendant at the bottom? Antecedent to more modern lockout drive systems and subs. After construction, Submarine Explorer was partially disassembled and transported to Panama in December 1866, where she was reassembled to harvest oysters and pearls in the Pearl Islands. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Experimental dives with the Submarine Explorer in the Bay of Panama ended in September 1867, when Kroll died of fever. The craft languished on the beach until 1869, when a new engineer and crew took it to the Pearl Islands to harvest oyster shells and pearls. That doesn't make any sense. The 1869 dives, with known depths and dive profiles that would have inevitably led to decompression sickness, resulted in the entire crew succumbing to what was described as fever. Because of this, the craft was laid up in a cove on the shores of the island of Sotelmeno in the Pearl Islands. I mean, that's just stupid. How many times would that have to happen before all these smart people that could build it and figure, like they could figure out that they need to pressurize the water to exactly this amount of pressure to withstand this amount of depth, but they can't figure out that that might have an effect on the people inside, and maybe they shouldn't come up so quickly? I mean, again, I'm reading you, this is no conspiracy theory stuff. The submarine's rusting hull was well known to locals, but they had presumed it to be a remnant of World War II. Oh, why would they think it's from World War II? Why wouldn't people remember it being there for the fucking almost 100 years that we're talking about it would have been? Isn't that stupid? Wouldn't there be people that were like, no, baby, it was here from before World War II? I saw it lots of times as a kid. Like, it's been here since my grandmother saw. Like, why would they think that? That doesn't make any sense. And that's the locals. The locals were that stupid. In 2001, after many years of misidentification, the remains of submarine explorer piqued the interest of archaeologist James P. Delgado of the Institute of Nautical Archaeology. Identification of the craft with the assistance of, well, who gives a fuck? Like, all that shit, this is just dumb. This is all just with what Institute for Discovery and the Oceanic, like, this is all stupid. This whole thing is a bunch of details that don't matter. Why do I care about what happened after the fucking sub? I'm trying to figure out the history of submarines, and this is where I'm getting to. You guys, shouldn't there be a really well documented version of this where you guys are like, see, dumbass? See, it all makes total sense. Why isn't that happening? Here we go. In 1866, Flatch was built at the Chilean government's request by Karl Flatch, a German engineer and immigrant. Isn't it amazing how it's always German engineers that are doing this shit? No matter where it is, no matter when it is, it's always these German engineers. This is in Chile. It was the 5th submarine built in the world. Along with the 2nd submarine, was intended to defend the port of Valsparo against attack by the Spanish Navy during the Chincha Islands War. Another one of these wars that we have never fucking heard about, have we? Here we go. Flatch was the first submarine designed and built in Chile in 1866. It was lost on a test run in the same year and is believed to lie on the seabed of the Bay of Valsparo. Well, why didn't they just get this one out? They could get the other one out in 1887. So this is considered a submarine, but it didn't work. It's like I've made submarines many times then. If you're talking about something that you throw in the water and water doesn't fill it like right away, but it comes in slowly and then eventually it sinks. Yeah, I've made those before, haven't you? The Flatch was built in 1866 at the request of the Chilean government by Karl Flatch, a German engineer and immigrant. It was the 5th submarine built in the world. Okay. Are you literally, this is the same line that was in the other page. Here we go. Like, I could keep telling you, man, this chat GPT, man, it just copies and pastes. You don't think people are actually doing all this, do you? This, along with the intended to defend the Valsparo against Spanish during Navy, the 2nd vessel built by Gustavo Heinermann sank on its maiden voyage. All of these things, they sink on their maiden voyage, huh? On May 3rd, 1866, after several days of successful testing, it's always like that, Karl Flatch, his son, and 9 other Chilean and German crewmen boarded the submarine for another test run. During the test run, the submarine sank for unknown reasons. It is now thought to lie at a depth of about 50 meters, 164 feet, within the Bay of Valsparo. The Flatch was located 2 days after the sinking by seamen from the English frigate HMS Leander, and the diver named John Wallace was able to see and draw the wreck, which was buried nose down in the bay's sediment. In 1866, they could see down 164 feet. Is this one of the clearest waters in the world? Is that why? Because that doesn't make any sense. Does that make sense to you? The Chilean Navy, with support from others, has searched for the submarine and intends to raise it after finding it. So now we can't find it. So 2 days after it sank, it was seen nose down in the sediment by this one dude. But nowadays, with all of our modern technology, we can't find that shit. The Chilean Navy, with support from others, has searched for the submarine and intends to raise it after finding it, even though there is yet no agreement on what to do with the remains of the 11 bodies thought to be inside. After a finding of an object that appears to be the Flatch was reported in El Muchiro del Visparo on April 25, 2007. However, the finding has not been confirmed because, as of August 2007, sediment still has to be cleared away from the object. Oh, so it's not. So whatever. Okay, so now we're on to mechanically powered submarines. We're just going to sort of jump here. Submarines could not be put into widespread or routine service by the navies until suitable engines were developed. The era from 1863 to 1904 marked a pivotal time in submarine development, and several important technologies appeared. A number of nations built and used submarines. Diesel-electric propulsion became the dominant power system, and equipment such as periscope became standardized. Countries conducted many experiments on effective tactics and weapons for submarines, which led to their large impact in World War I. The first submarine not relying on human power for propulsion. You know what? I'm going to do part 3 tomorrow because I am fucking done. Goodbye. Pedophiles, kill yourself.